Welcome to Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Brian Belansky here with Tristan Parker, and we are here for the Sunday races here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. And our first race of the day, Spec Corvette, GT cars, T1, T2. Tristan, give us our starting lineup.
Sure thing. Starting in 19th overall, number 116, Carl Fung. In 18th, number 1, Andrew Chinitzi. In 17th, number 90, Jeff Herbert. Alongside him, number 77, Luis Martinez. In 15th, number 44, Patrick Howe. In 14th, number 39, Kevin Jones. In 13th, number 37, Evan Gold. In 12th, number 46, John Simon. Alongside him, 07, Darren Griffin. In 10th, number 63, Donnie York. And in 9th, number 32, Greg Nestor. In 8th, number 60, Rick Parker. Alongside him in 7th, number 35, Josh Carroll. In 6th, number 17, Robert Weston. In 5th, number 155, Jim Tway. In 4th, number 7, AP Miranda. In 3rd, number 71, David Holmes. In 2nd, number 73, Mark LaCour. And in pole position, number 19, Bob Blizzard.
That's our starting lineup for our first race of the day, first of 5 races going through the afternoon here. We'll have 3 races and a short break for our workers to take a little break, and then we'll be right back at it with our final 2 races of the day. And we're all going to basically rapid fire these off, Tristan, as we get through our afternoon. Perfect weather again today. Temperatures in the low 80s. Very little wind today, which is both good and bad because the dust will just kind of sit there on the racetrack. So, but we're all good here, having a great time, and loving it as well. So, and we've got some, these cars are pretty awesome. We enjoy these a lot, and one of the things that's cool about this group is we've got ourselves some in-car cameras today.
We do, yeah. We've got a lot of Spec Corvettes out on the field, and we've got feed from inside of those Spec Corvettes, which is exciting to say the least. Really interesting to see how those cars handle, how the drivers handle those cars, respectively. Of course, we've got our camera coverage out on the track as well. You're looking at the S's here as they come around. I believe they did start under a double yellow, so I'm not exactly sure what was going on there.
Well, that's the pace car lap, goes under double yellow. Yeah,
so I was thinking there was an issue on the track. I don't know why I thought that.
No, but we're going to get ourselves a green flag right here, and we are racing here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park as we get our cars here heading down towards our first corner here. Of course, our first corner is corner number 16 because we do things oddly out here.
Indeed.
But because the reason that is, folks, is we run the course in different directions. So when we're running the course clockwise, turn number 16 is corner number 1. So anyway, I digress. That's why we use the names of the corners and not the numbers.
Green flag on the second group here. That's the Spec Corvettes, and one of them was right up in the dirt, actually, as they came down there. That was Robert Weston, who was taking his chunk out of the side, trying, I think, to get himself a little bit of an edge. It didn't quite work out. They're all pretty well grouped as they come around here on our first turn. A lot of those Spec Corvettes out there. Bob Blizzard, I think he's basically running his own race here today. Might have a little bit of company from the GT2s or the T3s, but otherwise on his own while the sports Spec Corvettes race against one another.
And we'll see our first group here come out of Riverside and head up towards Phil Hill. That's Phil Hill off in the distance there. There is the Bob Blizzard car, followed by the second place car. We'll be able to know which order they're in here once they cross our line for the first time. And here is that Robert Weston car here, about to pull this up here. There's the in-car from Robert Weston as he gets his race underway here. He was our race winner yesterday. Right now it looks like he is in 4th place. And I'm not sure if the car behind him, in front of him, well, we got another one here. This is the Josh Carroll car as they come across here. This is now this group heading down towards Riverside here.
Yeah, great to see these in-camera footage. You've got the rear-view camera on these cars as well, so you get an idea of what they're looking at in back of them. It gives you a good idea of what's going on, but you've lost a car right there off the track. I think that might have been Robert Weston, actually. I'm not entirely sure with the numbers, but just based on where we were, I think that was him who had a little whoopsie there around turn number 9.
Yeah. Let's see here.
And that is confirmation here on the flag net. That was 1-7. That's Robert Weston's car who went off and on right there. And that's going to allow him to slip by and continues the race apace. We'll get a good idea now as they come across the line here just who is where. Mark LaCour, David Holmes, AP Miranda, Josh Carroll, Jim Tway, and there's Robert Weston clocking back in at the tail end of a relatively tight group.
Yeah. And, oh. Almost went right into the rear end of that car, so.
It's a shame that it was a good Dutch angle there on that one.
It was, yeah.
the tilt. But all good. We'll see if we can check back in with that camera in a bit. Now, yesterday's group was relatively competitive at the start, and then after, one or two, maybe even 3 laps of being relatively back and forth with one another, they did kind of fall into a pretty evenly spaced rhythm and essentially kind of held that until the end of the race. So maybe something similar coming out of them here today. Hard to say. You never know who's gonna show up. Certainly for Bob Blizzard, it's a straightforward day. He's just doing his thing. And that SP car, what is that? It's a 2012 Chevy Bryan's Ranch? I don't actually know what the last part of it is, but it cuts off. It's fast, I'll tell you that for free.
There you go.
1:54 on the clock.
Oh, and I did not start the clock at the start of this race, so, of course.
Sounds like Andrew Chinizzi is the only 2-3 car out there on the track today. Has unfortunately had to come into the pit. That's the 1999 Porsche Boxster. Assuming his car is fine and ready to go, he'll probably make an appearance in one of our later races as well. He certainly did yesterday. As our spec Corvettes come around for lap number 2, all those sort of evenized gaps that I was talking about have relatively well established themselves. Robert Weston, though, about 0.5 of a second behind Jim Tway. And then if you go a little deeper into the field, Darren Griffin, who is sort of sitting in the middle of that pack, is with Evan Gold. And both of them are just nipping at the heels of Greg Nestor back there. Otherwise, about an even 1 to 2 second gap for almost all these spec Corvettes right now.
Here's the 35 Josh Carroll car going through the A section here, and then they'll head up towards Cotton Corners. Also got a pretty good camera angle here from Robert Weston. He is also in that same area here on the racetrack. We don't have a universal leveler on these cameras, so you got a little different angles depending on who installed the cameras, but having fun looking at those anyway. So here is your Corvettes here heading towards through Riverside. This is going out of Riverside and up towards Phil Hill. And then they are going down the drag strip, heading down towards the the Star Mazda corner. And now you'll see them coming out of Star Mazda and heading straight at us into the S's. We're having a little bit of bandwidth issues today, so I'll apologize for the pixelation. Tristan thinks it's cool.
I still stand by it. I think it's cool.
So, yeah, having one of those days.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast here. Bob Blizzard coming around. He's got Rick Parker with him, the GT2 up there. Mark LaCour powering forward here, chasing after David Holmes.
See a puff of dust out there in the distance. That means someone put a wheel off there at the exit of our Sunset corner.
I believe that's 37, number 37. I'm calling him 37. That's number 37, Evan Gold, who's probably Miranda is in third place overall in the Spec Corvettes. Josh Carroll is just behind AP Miranda in fourth. When they came around last time, there was about a 1.6 second gap between the two of them. You can see Josh Carroll making some really good effort there to try and make that gap up. But you come down into this dogleg, and it's just all speed here for AP Miranda. And Josh Carroll, I mean, he'll floor it here as well. You see the speedometer there just going up, up, up. Not as hard as some cars were taking yesterday, but he gets close to a top speed of 130 before he has to drop back down there on the right-hander that is Riverside, and he will not catch AP Miranda on that straight, so he'll just keep looking for his opportunity.
And we are, how far are we into this race? We are about 10 minutes in here to our 30-minute race. All of our races 30 minutes long today, and we will get those through, and we will move right along through our schedule today. Of course, our coverage today is brought to you by Porterfield Brakes. If you need any kind of brakes for either your race car or for your street car, Porterfield Brakes is the place to go for them. We are always happy to have them along. Again, Porterfield Porterfield-brakes.com.
Taking a look now at the track, even an idea of what the track times are. Bob Blizzard has slowed down a little bit. He might actually be letting some of those GT or some of those Spec Corvettes around. I mean, he doesn't necessarily need to book it out there, does he? So, no onus on him at the moment. The rest of the Spec Corvettes running their race. And again, those wide gaps, not wide gaps, those equally spaced gaps have opened up across the board. The only real big difference in here of note is that David Holmes is about 3.9 seconds, let's say, round up on him for a little bit there, behind Mark LaCour and just sort of chasing after him. And that's that could continue apace this entire time, honestly.
Bob Blizzard still doing what he did yesterday, moving straight ahead and trying to keep ahead of that GT2 car. We've talked about this before. He's in a different class, so and definitely has the highest powered car here, and he's pretty good at driving it too.
That does help.
It does, doesn't
that does actually help.
It absolutely does. Absolutely does.
Being able to keep it under control right there, key aspect of it. Robert Weston trying to creep up on Jim Tway, who just set his fastest lap here at about 2 minutes and 0.017 of a second. So going relatively fast there as the leaders for our Spec Corvettes come through. David Holmes, AP Miranda, Josh Carroll, all chasing after Mark LaCour. The gap between AP Miranda and David Holmes, so third and second place in the Spec Corvettes, has actually narrowed up to about 0.5 of a second. So that's a fight to keep an eye on right there. Similarly, Jim Tway trying to catch Josh Carroll. Robert Weston, who we saw earlier go on and off, has really not yet managed to recover the little bit of an advance he made when he initially started the race. If you look further down the grid, though, you'll be happy to know, if you're a Josh Carroll fan, he's moved up 3 places here. And you've actually got Patrick Howe running at 4 places ahead of his starting position as well. Andrew Chinitzi, by the way, who did have to go into the pit, that's the number 91 car. He's not officially out of the race, not marked so as yet, but he did seem to be dropping back pretty far behind everybody, so we'll see if he might be holding off there at some time in the future, Brian.
Interesting with Bob Weston, who was our race leader yesterday, not showing the same pace today, not able to make his way up through the field. He is now in, doing my quick math, looks like 6th place in Spec Corvette. And I'm not quite sure what the situation. I know he took advantage of some other people's mistakes yesterday, but
that's right. Yeah, he had his opportunities and he took them, but today it was his mistake, I guess, that was taken advantage of instead.
Well, it's one of those things that, every time you get out there, you have to manage the situations, and, you can have a good day today and a bad day tomorrow. So looks like that's
Very
kind of
true.
what might be happening here. So.
I mentioned this yesterday when we were watching these camera feeds. We don't
To think about it, you weren't looking in that mirror. I'm right here behind you. Here is Josh Carroll heading up towards Phil Hill.
Whoa. Right on his back bumper, he's got trouble as well.
Yeah.
Getting chased right there. That's going to be Jim Tway, who you can see in that top right corner on the rear view camera, just right behind him. And of course, perhaps not so much as the spec like our Mazdas or our SRF3s, but these cars can benefit from that kind of drafting as well.
Oh,
and
sure.
that's almost certainly what you're looking at right there.
Yep.
As it's just an attempt to find an opening by Jim Tway, and he nearly had one. As they came up there through the grapevine. He'll look for it again probably as they head into one of these straightaways.
And so if there's anyone else coming up here to Buttonwillow here today or coming up to any of our future races, if you'd like to have in-car coverage of your car on our race broadcast, just get a hold of me. Give me an email at raceannouncerbrian@gmail.com. I will connect you with the folks who do this stuff so that we can all get it on the air, and because this really does enhance our coverage a whole lot here. Here we go. There's our main straight camera. You see a little puff of dust out there in the distance. Someone put a wheel off there, but all good. They've all continued on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you do see today. It's Halloween season here. We don't put the Minute Maid orange on top of the start tower all the time, but if you look at the other side of that, it's actually a pumpkin.
Yeah.
So.
It's a car made orange on the other side.
Exactly. So, but don't. This is a Halloween only moment for us here. We do like to have a good time out here at the racetrack whenever we have the opportunity to do so.
People were wearing costumes yesterday.
Yes.
Getting in the spirit.
Yes.
I was gonna say it's a big thank you, by the way, we should say, to the Spec Corvettes for seeking us out and providing us with this footage, because we wouldn't have had it if it hadn't been for them taking the initiative to come talk to us about it. So it is great to see.
And Spec Corvette is a class that's really trying to catch on across the U.S. We have it out here in Southern California. They have a little bit of Spec Corvette racing up in the Northeast, but they're really hoping that the coverage catches on or that the class catches on and can become a class across the entire club. The drivers out here certainly get a real huge hoot out of driving these things, and being a spec class, they're pretty evenly matched, all things considered. So hopefully they'll be able to take all these different in-car videos and our broadcasts and get some interest around the country. So that's their big goal. And we're going to do a podcast. I was talking with John, who is kind of the head honcho here.
Right.
And we're going to schedule a podcast on Inside the SCCA in a couple of weeks, maybe a little later in December. And we're going to talk all about it. So
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I love this category. It's good fun to watch. These guys have, in the most part, raced pretty clean, and they race pretty fast, and that's what you want to see.
Well, and one of the things they're telling us is that because it's a Corvette, kind of made to go fast and already, they don't have to do a ton of it to make it race ready.
I believe it.
They put in the safety features, the roll cage, and the belts and everything. But once they get all of that in, they're not doing a ton of work mechanically to these cars because they kind of roll off the factory line as kind of race cars without roll cages. So they get to have a little bit of fun with it, and a good way to put a 20-year-old Porsche, put a 20-year-old Corvette out there, and
Yeah.
and at 20 years old, you can find these at a fairly reasonable cost,
Yeah, very true.
at least in racing reasonable.
Racing reasonable,
So,
exactly. It's all relative, as we
It
said the
is.
other day.
It
Robert
is.
Weston chasing Josh Carroll about 0.5 of a second back. In turn,
Oh, it's
Josh
closer than
Carroll
that.
chasing Jim Tway. Ooh, a little bit of dovetailing there. I don't think you quite like that if you're
Ooh,
sitting in the car
a
of Josh
little
Carroll.
tank slapper there.
Yeah, he keeps hitting those sides up on the warning track, and that's just slowing him down. It's not that it's causing him to crash or anything. It's just slowing him down.
Yeah.
And you can see Robert Weston there just probing the gap, right? Letting him know that he's there in the back and he wants an opportunity to pass. So if you're sitting in the car right now of Josh Carroll, right, you got to focus on kind of not putting your wheels out of place. He goes up on the warning track there. That's a lot more acceptable. Most cars will probably take a line that looks something similar to that. But
Right.
you got to be very careful about this right now, because I feel like it would not take very much at all for Josh Carroll to be passed by Robert Weston here. But then again, if you're sitting in Josh Carroll's position, you're looking ahead there as well, because, that's Jim Tway who's right in front of you, and he's not far in front of you.
Ooh, look at that saw on the wheel there.
Boy.
That is not the fast way through there, but and that just keeps that 17 car, which is right behind him, right there, just gives him the notion that he can maybe make that move by. It's a fine line between using the curbs and abusing the curbs, and everyone wants to touch the curbs. You want to caress the curbs.
Sure.
You don't want to abuse the curbs,
enough.
and that's really where it gets to be difficult. Is you put one wheel off, and sometimes you can hook that wheel, and all of a sudden you're pointing in the wrong direction.
That was Andrew Chinizzi, by the way, who you saw there in the blue and white Porsche that was kind of going slow on the left-hand side of the track. An attempted pass right there on Josh Carroll. It was tried by Robert Weston. You can see it in the rearview cam. It did not manifest, but we'll go back and take a look at Robert Weston's camera here as well, because this is truly a bit of a fight right here. And look at how close the spacing is between the two of them. Honestly, all it's going to take right now is for Robert Weston to just find the right moment. He tries to go in underneath. That's not there either. He's still got to follow the contours of the track, whether he likes it or not. And he, to his unfortunateness, cannot seem to find a way around Josh Carroll, who is just holding him off at every turn, taking all the right lines here to prevent Robert Weston from slipping in around him.
So we're paying more attention to the Spec Corvette race for two reasons. One, because we have these awesome cameras. But two, it really is the only close racing right now on the racetrack. These first 4 or 5 positions here are just going after it. And the other classes who are racing here with them this weekend or today, there's really no close battles. So that's kind of why we're keeping an eye on this thing as opposed to looking at some other stuff.
Yeah, and Robert Weston, as we turn away there, still looking to get around Josh Carroll, trying for the inside of that last turn that we saw. Did not get it. We'll go back over and check our other position cameras here across the board, get an idea of what's going on, who's where and who's what at the moment.
About 9 minutes to go here. I did not start our clock here. Maybe I'll get that going here for the last few minutes of the race. But I was too busy getting all these beautiful in-car cameras going, and that's what really happened here. So I'll put it up for the last 8 minutes, I guess.
Now, it's interesting, if you look at the top of the Spec Corvettes, Mark LaCour, AP Miranda, David Holmes, they're all relatively set. I don't think I'm going to see any significant changes from any of them up at the top, barring unforeseen incident. I mean, that's always a possibility here. And AP Miranda did eventually win out on their attempted chase, so they did get the leg up there on David
Oh, look at
Holmes.
that right there. He's almost underneath him going in there through Phil Hill. I think that's Phil Hill. That was not Phil Hill. Oh, no, that was the Grapevine. Okay. I lost my orientation here, but man, he was right there, and now he's trying to get up along the side again. It looks like the Robert Weston or the the Josh Carroll car did not get as good of a grip coming off of that corner and was able to give Robert Weston just a little bit of a look on the inside, but now he's pulled it back together again as they head up the hill towards Phil Hill. This is the Phil Hill section of the racetrack. The little right-hander, then down the hill towards the left-hander, and then they get back on the drag strip as they make that long pull down towards the Star Mazda corner. And it does look like Robert Weston has got a little bit more speed there and finally gets the job done here. And there he is on the inside of Josh Carroll. You'll see him right there, side by side now, going through this section of the S's. And this is going to be very, very interesting. There he is on the top. Oh, he hits the curb hard there on the right.
Oh, no.
And, oh, that might have knocked the camera off.
I might have knocked the camera off,
That was
too.
a huge bump over the curbs there. And I'm trying to see out the back of this car, and that car is not there anymore.
No.
You may be hearing something on the flag net real quickly about that 35 car, because that is not what we wanted to see here. That is the circle of demise here, the spinning circle of demise. That was such a good battle there.
Bad news, unfortunately, for Josh Carroll, who did spin out right there. And unfortunately, as a consequence, is now heading down the fence line into the pit. So something must have gotten knocked loose or it doesn't work anymore. It's obviously more than just the camera, let's be honest with ourselves. And so Robert Weston does get his spot, but definitely a hard-won fight right there, as you mentioned. And you got to feel a little bit there for his opponent.
Let's see if we can pick all these cars up here. Here are the S's here. This is the last bit of corner strip before we get back onto the main straight as we get down to about 6 minutes to go here in this race.
A little bit of a bright spot there for number 35. According to scoring, he did actually make halfway, so he gets his, finish. Probably not the way that he wanted to end his weekend, but there are a lot worse ways you can end your weekend. So
that is true. That is true. He ended his weekend racing at the racetrack, which is a pretty good way to run your weekend,
Hopefully, nothing too bad with the car.
Exactly.
Looking across the rest of the field, by the way, nothing really shifting here in the Spec Corvettes now. Everybody seems to have relatively solidified to where they want to be in this race. The only one that's even sort of in the remote area of closest now, you have to go all the way down to Darren Griffin, who's after Greg Nestor. And he's about a second back there on Greg Nestor, so I don't think you should necessarily expect that to be popping off anytime soon. Meanwhile, up at the top, Bob Blizzard still doing his thing. Rick Parker also doing his thing. And then if you look farther down, Andrew Chinitzi, Christopher Qualls, Byron Walker, they are all just lapping as the Spec Corvettes kind of tear around in between them. There's really not a big fight going on. David Holmes now the closest to actually having a significant battle with his opponent, AP Miranda, and he was about 1.3 of a second back right there.
And I do have the unofficial timer now up, so about 4 minutes left in this race, and we'll be getting to our Wings and Things group right after this. So you can see that was a blue flag being waved for a slower car as it was being overtaken by one of the faster classes here. Back here to the Robert Weston car. Weston 7th place right now, 5th place in class, and he has got nobody in front of him and nobody behind him, so all he needs to do now is keep the car between the curbs and get down for the last 3.5 minutes or so of this race, and yesterday's race winner will probably just miss out on the podium today unless something funky happens up front.
Yeah, I doubt very much that Robert Weston is going to be able to put him there is AP Miranda. We have that cam briefly. He's happily in second place, chasing after Rick Parker. He's probably about a second behind. If he was a minute behind, he'd have some real problems. He's about a second behind Mark LaCour right now, give or take. And that, as we come to what should soon be our last 2 laps here, does seem like a relatively insurmountable difference between the two of them. Again, very much like yesterday, Brian, we had some battling for a bit, and then they all just sort of slotted in, and they're just racing now.
Well, unfortunately, that sometimes happens. Sometimes the battles happen in the middle. Sometimes they happen at the end. But it was a very, very fun battle while it lasted.
Well, it does appear that the white flag has been unsheathed down there in the tower on the track, and so we should be coming up to our last lap here in just a second. It'll, of course, be number 71, or I should be saying number 19, Bob Blizzard, who will be the one that will indicate that we are on our last lap.
Just heard the word from the race control to the start stand that when Mr. Blizzard comes by, he will be presented with the white handkerchief as they get ready to do 3.1 more miles to the checkered flag and the receptor of the big trophy for the afternoon. Right now, we've got everybody fairly spread out. I'm going to see if I can find your race leader here.
Sounds like Donnie York might have had a little bit of mechanical trouble as well. Off the track, got back on the track, trying to continue.
Okay, and I see the starters pointing now. So now the white flag is in the air as they display that to our leader here. And the leader now will get one more time around, about a minute and 55 seconds if things keep going as they have been. And Mr. Blizzard will win his second race of the weekend.
You will. Overall winner, of course,
Correct.
and the winner in his class. Credit where credit is due. Curious to see what happens to the Spec Corvettes right now. Mark LaCour, the commanding leadership position in the Spec Corvette class. Rick Parker in that mix, I think, now as well. And you've got 100% AP Miranda still in it. I mean, he passed David Holmes. The gap between him and Rick Parker, and then subsequently the gap between him and Mark LaCour, is quite big. So I don't think we're going to see anything out of AP Miranda. That said, he's still, when I say still in it, I'm going to clarify. I think he's still in it for a potential competition here with David Holmes on these last couple of laps. If David Holmes can really kind of put the speed on, I don't think AP Miranda can quite rest on their laurels just yet if they want to be playing this cautiously. And sure enough, here they come. AP Miranda across the line. David Holmes about a second back here. He's being in turn crept up on by Jim Tway. So a big final lap there for that group of three.
All right, and this should be your race leader here coming by in just a second as he will come past us here and go through the drag strip for the final time here. And I believe, was that him? Hard to tell at the moment. I was looking at the timing and scoring, and I looked down, and then I lost him. Yeah, I think that's him right there that just went through our screen with the orange Corvette behind him. We'll know here in just a second. I see the checkered flag in the air. Here it comes. There it is. Checkered flag is in the air, and there is your race winner, Bob Blizzard, coming across the line.
And then Mark LaCour not far behind him, and you'll see the rest of the Spec Corvettes coming through. Nobody was able to make a big move here in the Spec Corvette category, so I think they're all going to end in about the same place, but definitely had some action there worth keeping an eye on.
That's right. That's right. All right, so let's do our final full field rundown for this group, and then we'll take a short break before we get to our second race of the afternoon.
All right, starting at the top, your overall race winner and the winner for the SP category, that is number 19, Bob Blizzard. In second place overall and the winner of the Spec Corvette category, that is number 73, Mark LaCour. In third place, number 60, Rick Parker. In fourth, number 7, AP Miranda. And in fifth, number 71, David Holmes. Followed by Jim Tway, Robert Weston, Greg Nestor, Darren Griffin, John Simon, Patrick Howe, Luis Martinez, Kevin Jones, Jeff Herbert, Andrew Chinizzi, and Byron Walker. Your DNF list, Donnie York, Christopher Qualls, Josh Carroll, and Evan Gold. And that is your full field rundown here at the end of race number 1 at Buttonwillow.
Next race, Formula Atlantic Continental FE2, FX, Formula 3 and 4, A Sports Racers, Prototypes 1 and 2, and Sports 2000. Stay with us. We'll be right back. right, welcome back to Buttonwillow Raceway Park, Cal Club, SCCA Divisional Races. Up next, our Wings and Things class. Got about 20 or so cars in this group. And to bring us our starting lineup, here is Tristan Parker.
Yeah, starting in 16th, number 123, Andy Chan. In front of him, number 72, Taylor Carmona. In 14th, number 12, Larry Mason. Alongside him, number 021, Kui Kin. In 12th, number 44, Paimon Autad. In 11th, number 88, Cameron Parson. In 10th, number 2, Edward Gunther. Alongside him, number 144, Ben Valentine. In 8th, number 1, Emily DeHoos. In 7th, number 24, Barrett Wolf. In 6th, number 33, Dimitri Pistoliaco. In 5th, number 17, Preston Lambert. In 4th, number 3, Larry Schnurr. In 3rd, number 37, Jay Horak. In 2nd, number 16, Nicole Havadra. And then starting it off in pole position, number 52, Joseph Vizo.
It will be interesting today to see, watch and keep an eye on Dimitri Pistoliaco. Yesterday, he started from the last row. Not exactly sure what the situation was, if he didn't make it for qualifying or had some sort of a mechanical problem. But he started last and ended up finishing, I believe, 5th. Yes. Well, today, he's starting 6th, and that keeps him a lot closer to what he needs to get done to get to the front.
It does.
It will be difficult for him to catch Joseph Vizo, but he doesn't care about Joseph Vizo because he's in a different class.
Correct.
So we should see how this thing plays out because it could be very, very interesting.
Yeah, Nicole Vadra as well, starting much higher. I apologize because I feel like I'm never getting that name quite right, but
nope, you got it.
Nicole Vadra is starting very much higher up as well, so must have had a good qualification here to sort of average out, because she was a little bit lower down in the pack yesterday, now sitting at pole position for the F3s, or the Formula 3s. A lot of Formula 3s and Formula 4s here today. That's kind of the lion's share of our racers in this category. Handful of S2s, one P1 and one P2 out there in the mix, and somehow a couple of FXs floated through as well, but really it's the F3s who are the main events in a bunch of Lee JS's all out on the track. And our lights are out on our pace cars, so we should be seeing the group coming around soon. You get a good camera shot there of Joseph Vizo in a very fast, fancy car, the 2006 Elon DP02.
I think we should just call it a very fast, fancy car for the rest of the weekend.
It is a very fast, fancy car. He had a heck of a lap time yesterday, if I remember correctly. So I think his best time so far has been 141.064, which is really fast, honestly, for this track and for this race.
And here we come down looking for a potential green flag, and it is in the air. Chuck Phillips is our starter, waving the green flag. All of our cars now barreling down towards the first corner. Let us see if they all negotiate it without any issues. That is the goal, of course. And I don't see any dust.
Looks clean so far. We'll get another view here of them as they come up. That car in the front there, the black and the blue, that is Joseph Vizo. That's his 2006 Elon. And then behind him is Nicole Havadra, Jay Horak, and the rest of the F3, F4 crowd. We'll get a better idea of how positioning and jostling has sorted out after the first lap. But as it stands so far, order should be relatively what it was to begin with. You just see some cars coming through here, and it's a good little pack the deeper you go into the F3s and F4s, but in the main, it looks like Nicole Havadra and Jay Horak have sort of pulled their way ahead of the rest of their group.
So I'm looking at timing here, Tristan, and Nicole Havadra had a mechanical problem yesterday, and it's possible that she did not make the start of the race because she pushed all the way down to the last spot here after the start of the race. We'll know for certain here when they come across the start line here after the first, the timing stripe here after the first full lap. But I thought when the cars whizzed past us that I did not see her car. and the timing sheet seems to indicate that maybe my old man eyes were not deceiving me. But we will know for a second. Look at the gap that Joseph Viso has already opened up on that second group of cars, which of course is appropriate because he's in a completely different class here. So, and you mentioned his fast lap yesterday. Today just did at 1:45.2. He should have the fastest car on the property this weekend.
He should, yeah. It should be.
So, and he's not disappointing when it comes to that as well. And I was wrong. Nicole Havadra is exactly the person in second place, just like you've been saying all along. So I'm just going to shut up and listen to you.
No, I just work off guesswork anyway. As we've opined from up here before, it's often kind of hard to see those cars when they're out on the turns. I mean, admittedly, even sometimes when they're coming past in front of us, it's a little hard to see who's who, especially in this category because these guys tend to go quite fast as they come by. So tracking a car, picking out its number,
right.
When you're not familiar with color schemes, and then you try and get familiar with color schemes, and then they change their color schemes.
That is true.
So,
that is true.
Their depth and creativity of their representation is allowed to run free here at Buttonwillow, and as a result, we suffer.
There is Joe Viso there, Joseph Viso, coming down through drag strip, and then followed by a gaggle of F3 and F4 cars. This is the Pro Series, the U.S. Formula 3, Formula 4 championships here. Oh, that's my problem.
Well, Nicole Havadra and Jay Horak, they actually had a pretty good gap between them, 1.3 seconds. You actually have Joseph Viso hitting a much faster speed on his second lap around, going 142.282. Now that he's sort of freed from the constraints of starting off the lap in the pack, he's really putting in the speed. But then again, this is true of most of the cars behind him. Everybody heating up right here as they get a little bit faster.
And guess what I forgot to do at the start of this race also?
What's that?
Start the timer.
Oh, unfortunate. That's okay.
Let me work on that a little bit here. We'll see if we can't get caught up here.
All of our cars coming across the line right now. The order in and among the F3s, F4s seems relatively set at the moment. Some gaps to take note of farther back in the pack. Dimitri Pistiliaco, who we started talking off about, is chasing Preston Lambert right now and is only about 0.85 of a second behind. In that same sort of set, Barrett Wolf, Ben Valentine, and Paimed Altwad are all very, very close to one another. The largest time between them, 0.7 of a second. So a group of three there to watch out for as well.
Joseph Viso now down to a 142.2, so he's inching closer to his fast lap from yesterday. Really putting on a clinic here on how to drive one of these prototype cars fast. And here he comes down the main straight again. He'll be starting lap number 4, I believe. Yep. Lap number 3, I apologize. So 30-lap timed races here. Cars and drivers need to finish half of the timed distance to be able to count it as a finisher. This is also the first race on our schedule to help qualify for next year's SCCA National Championship runoffs. So the points here count, they matter. And that's why even if you might have a little bit of a lame car, you still want to try to get to the end because one of the criteria besides points is to complete a certain number of races.
Correct.
And finishing halfway, even if you don't finish first, is still considered a finish. So that's a lot of what happens here sometimes early in the season.
Yeah, and you've got a pretty good idea of, how things are shaking out here at the moment. Nicole Havadra, Jay Horak, Larry Schnurr, they're all the top of the F3s and F4s respectively. Preston Lambert in there as well, kind of in the hunt. And Dimitri Pistoliaco, he's trying to find an opening, but really it's not turning in his favor just yet. Still a lot of race left to run here. Meanwhile, looking back, Edward Gunther, Ben Valentine, Pyman Altod continued their fight deep in the lineup. But as you were saying, it's not a bad day for it out here. Now that we take a look at it again, it's very, very clear. The dust is not even as bad as it was yesterday, in all fairness to them. The ground is a little dry, so when we do see, and you've been seeing on camera, the occasional puffs up of dust, they do tend to linger a little bit. But in general, so again, one of the nicest racing days we've had at Buttonwillow, so that does a lot for these lighter cars, makes it much easier for them to drive on these tracks, which in turn, I mean, gives us a little hope that maybe we're going to see one of our fastest times coming out from one of these racers. Joseph Vizo, would be a real pleasure to see him actually push that 141 mark again, so we'll be keeping an eye on that as well.
Here are our cars heading through the S's. This is on the west portion of the racetrack, the last group of corners before the cars come back here onto the main straight, which we have here. As you can see, our pumpkin-clad start stand. Getting in the spirit here of the season, spirit of the season.
Like I said, everybody was in costumes yesterday, so they're all just keeping the dream alive out here at Buttonwillow.
We all dressed as our race director this year.
I saw that,
which was a lot of fun.
There was some very good variations on that, I must admit.
Yes. I should have pulled up a picture. Our race director drives around on a golf cart with a chair on top of it. Some people actually dressed up and made golf carts to wear with chairs on top of their hats, which was very, very cute.
Yeah, I saw some people walking around with those. Those were great. Very creative out here.
Yes. Creative and people with more time on their hands than me. So, that's good stuff. Coming up on 21 minutes left to go in the race here. Of course, our time at the top there is not official race time, so we do not count that. But I do try to get it to be pretty close to official race time. So I should write up there unofficial race time, make it perfectly clear to people. But want to take a time here real quick before we get back to our race action to thank our good friends at Porterfield Racing Brakes. This is the Cal Club Divisional Races presented by Porterfield. They provide braking, brakes, pads, and rotors, and all the stuff you need to stop your car. Although I always like the joke, if you're using your brakes, you're not going fast enough. But, they want them to work really well when you do have to use them. And they sell a whole bunch of other stuff besides brakes as well. So check them out, porterfield-brakes.com. And they sell all over the U.S., so you don't have to be here in Southern California, although they are based out here. But they're longtime supporters of Cal Club, and we could not do this without their help. So thank you to Porterfield Brakes.
Yeah, a great opportunity given to us here to get the Buttonwillow action out for you guys. We love to show it to you. Barrett Wolf suffering a little bit deeper down. He's 9th overall. Did a little off and on right there, which forced the cars around him to kind of take evasive action. So they all got a little piece of the off-track roadway here, which has to be a little bit frustrating if you're sitting in their position, especially because they are both drivers who would very much dearly like to move up. Yesterday we saw Pyman Altod in particular fight pretty hard. He's in an S2. We saw a lot of effort out of him. I think he actually had to turn in early, if I remember correctly,
right?
Due to a mechanical fault. So there's one that really, wants to win, and I guess everybody wants to win. But I know in particular he was fighting for it yesterday, and he was a little. I'm sure he was a little bit disappointed. The stick is about to be shook here at number 24 black. That'll be Barrett Wolf, who did have that mishap earlier on the track. That was the one where I was talking about where two cars had to take evasive action on a turn. So probably not surprising he's getting the stick waved at him up there.
Yeah, definitely. They actually, I believe, had some contact in that little incident. So especially, we frown upon contact all the time, but when you've got these open-wheel cars, contact can have really dire circumstances. you get the two wheels to touch each other, and that usually sends one of the cars airborne. And these cars use wings to keep them on the ground, not to keep them off the ground. So try really hard to avoid that here. So here comes the black stick is going to get waved. For those of you a little unfamiliar possibly with our rules here, when they wave the black stick at a particular driver and put their number on the number board, that is a stern message. That is like waving the nun waving the finger at you in Catholic school.
It's a warning.
And you don't want to get to the nun to pull out the ruler to come after you. So the black stick is the first warning, and then if you get into trouble again, you're probably going to get a full-on black flag, and you'll have to have a conversation with one of our fine disciplinary stewards about that situation. So.
Yeah, you don't want to get caught out on anything like that. I mean, obviously, it's not that he's done anything particularly egregious yet. It's just that he needs to be a little bit more careful.
Right. So Nicole Havadra, she's opened up a 5.3 seconds lead, having a very similar run to the run she had yesterday until a mechanical failure. So hopefully that car will stay together today, and she'll be able to pick up the win here if she can keep it together. At least that's what she's hoping for. Jay Horak, on the other hand, wouldn't mind at all if there was another mechanical problem.
No, certainly not.
So, but at the moment, she is slowly driving away from the 37 car. Again, that gap now 5.3 seconds here as we come up on just past 17 minutes to go here.
They, Nicole Vadra and Jay Horak kind of in a group of their own right now because the next closest driver to them is Larry Schnurr, and he's a full 26 seconds behind. So
right.
Not really a competitive threat at this stage. It's just about managing the race from here on in with about halfway-ish here, a little bit, maybe halfway in a minute. Yep. We'll take our big energy break and hopefully power through in the second half.
There you go.
I don't know what's going on up here in the tower, but I am tired today. Too much action yesterday, I guess.
Or a nice big lunch and we just want a nap.
That might also be it. That was a large sandwich that was provided. But I wanted to give a shout out here. We've talked a little bit about him, and justifiably so, how fast that car is. Joseph Vizo on his best lap, 141.9.
Wow.
So very, very fast for this Buttonwillow track, and you love to see it, honestly, somebody pulling through with that level of speed.
Yeah, definitely. Coming up on halfway here, why don't we do a full field rundown here, get everybody caught up with where everyone is.
Sure thing. Let's review a full field rundown here at the moment. In first place, number 52, Joseph Vizo. In second, number 16, Nicole Havadra. In third, number 37, Jay Horak. In fourth, number 3, Larry Schnurr. In fifth, number 17, Preston Lambert. In sixth, number 33, Dimitri Pistoliaco. From there on out, it is number 144, Ben Valentine. Number 2, Edward Gunther. Number 12, Larry Mason. Number 44, Payman Autad. Number 00, Alexander Kornfeld. Number 24, Barrett Wolf, who is currently pitting. Number 7, Corey Condit. Number 21, Kwai Kin. Number 88, Cameron Parson. Number 1, Emily DeHoos. Number 72, Taylor Carmona. And last but certainly not least, number 123, Andy Chan.
That is our full field rundown brought to you by the Inside of the SCCA podcast, which you can see right here on the Racing Network on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We're live there. You can also interact and ask some questions of our guests on the Facebook chat, on the YouTube chat. And then, of course, we do it as a regular old-fashioned, old-school podcast on Friday mornings on the Racing Wire Podcast Network. 14 minutes left to go here. Give a big thanks out to Porterfield Racing Brakes. They are our sponsor here, our official presenting sponsor. Get your brakes and all of your braking needs at Porterfield-brakes.com. Also want to give a big shout out to everybody here at Cal Club, all the volunteers who put on the races. Really helpful, well, not even helpful, critical to making this happen. Without the volunteers, we do not go racing. We've got people all over the racetrack providing emergency services and flagging and communication folks, as well as our grid people and our timing and scoring, technical inspectors, race administration, our stewards, and just a whole bunch of folks that it takes to make it happen. So a big thank you to all of them. If you want to come out and be part of the action, just go to calclub.com, and you can connect with anybody who can give you the directions on how to get started to come out and volunteer. There's ways to get your race car on the racetrack as well, and your street car too. So it's calclub.com.
Tons of opportunities out here in the Cal Club. Well worth it for anyone who's even remotely interested. It's a good weekend out as well, and we'd be happy to go ahead and get you the opportunity to do something interesting on the track. Flagging. We always need more flaggers. We got
announcing.
Announcing.
Yeah.
We've got some new flaggers out there actually today who have been doing a great job of kind of learning the ropes and helping our drivers through. So always plenty of new opportunities. Call outs to Preston Lambert and Dimitri Pistoliaco. Both of them setting their fastest lap here, 152.4 and 152.3 respectively. And really the reason that they are going quite as fast as they are is that Dimitri Pistoliaco is trying to catch up and pass Preston Lambert. So that's something to keep an eye out there as they come around. We'll check to see if we can get a better view. Unfortunate to be lacking those car cameras because they do make it very much easier, Brian, to determine who's being chased by who and where and what. But we'll do our best using the pure visuals that we've been given up here in the tower.
Yeah. Nice group of those Formula 3, Formula 4 cars coming through here. .1 miles here around Buttonwillow, so
quite long.
It is long, which makes it with the cameras that we have, we don't get a coverage of all of the different sections of the racetrack. Hopefully next year we'll be able to add some cameras and do that. If you'd like to be one of our sponsors, you can help us do that. Just send me a quick email at raceannouncerbrian with an I at gmail.com. I'd be happy to hook you up and see what you can do. Lots of different sponsor levels. So no matter what kind of budget you've got, you can be part of the action here out at Buttonwillow. And next year we're going to Willow Springs.
Exciting stuff.
Not quite sure if we can broadcast from there just yet because they don't have a ton of cell phone service out there. But we're going to try, and we'll see what happens.
Be a shame not to.
Yeah.
It's a cool track. Well worth seeing.
And they've resurfaced part of Willow Springs. So that was part of the reason that we're getting to go back is because there's new pavement, and that was a big deciding factor. So about 10.5 minutes to go here as we keep pushing our way through this second race of the day, our next race of the day. One of our more exciting ones, typically our Spec Miata race. So that's coming up next.
Yeah, big group of Spec Miatas out here. They were very competitive yesterday, so you're going to want to come back in and check on that race. Nothing too exciting happening around the race so far, but we'll give you the heads up. Preston Lambert, Dimitri Pistoliaco, Ben Valentine, and Edward Gunther all setting their fastest lap. And the gap between Dimitri Pistoliaco and Preston Lambert has actually narrowed to .493 of a second.
And Joseph Viso, our race leader, just clicked off another fast lap here, a 1:41.654, 1 minute 41 seconds, .654. That is his fastest lap today so far.
For him.
Yeah.
That's very fast. I feel it's a bit redundant that we keep saying that, but really, I mean, just got to emphasize it in some way. That's very fast for Buttonwillow.
Yeah.
About what we would probably expect from a car of that caliber, but still really good to see somebody actually putting those numbers up. Joseph Viso giving us all something to watch out there on the track. And meanwhile, speaking of things to watch, in the ongoing Preston Lambert-Dimitri Pistoliaco fight right there, Pistoliaco has fallen back to almost a full second, so the momentum that had been built up now gone as he continues to try and just climb up just one spot.
So what's interesting is that if my well, this was last updated on the actually January of this year. The track record here in P1, which is what Joseph Viso is driving in, the track record sits right now at a 138.0. So even at a 141.6, he's still a couple of seconds off that track record. Now, that track record was set by Jim Davenport back here earlier in 2021. Jim Davenport is one of the top drivers in P1 across the country. So he was. It's not surprising me that he's the one who holds the track record here.
You would hope.
yeah, very much so. So at least that's the bogey time that Joseph Wiesel's shooting for here, because that's really all he's got left to do this weekend is to get the track record. Because he's won everything else. He's won the pole position twice. It looks like he's going to go on to win the second race as well. So the only thing left right now is to go after that track record.
Sure, why not? Put a little bit of speed on it.
Yeah,
he's got plenty of time to do it. The tires have to be warm by now as well, so he's got his opportunity. A little bit of an issue around like turn 2, turn 6. It sounds like one of the members of the pack that was a little bit deeper in, we've been talking about, kind of tailing Dimitri Pistoliaco, might have accidentally put a foot out of line and ended up in the dirt. The problem with the Spec Corvettes is I feel like they do have a bit of a tendency to, I don't know what the right word is necessarily. They do have a tendency to get kind of dirty if they go off like that.
Yeah.
You don't want to. They're lighter vehicles, so they don't handle the off-roading, quote unquote, as well. It reminds me a lot of our Spec Racer Fords when they go off and things can go just very wrong in a very short amount of time. So we've seen that already, actually, because I did mention earlier on, it was number 20. Who was that got the black flag? Number 44. They didn't get the black flag. They just got shown the black flag.
I think it was 24, wasn't
24, thank you. Yeah. Barrett Wolf. And he did have to immediately pit after that lap because he was having some sort of mechanical issue.
Okay.
So there's a definite trend right there.
Yeah, it's definitely, and you know, when these cars are even closer to the ground than the Spec Racer Fords, they're probably a half an inch off the ground clearance. They don't have a lot of shock travel.
Right.
So, you know, they are definitely made to be on the pavement and not on the dirt. So there's definitely a bit of a, you know, a bit of a rough ride if that happens.
Yeah. And I bet if you watch the cams inside these cars, they are a little bit less likely than our Corvettes to go really hard up on those curves, just because they don't, or the warning track, whatever you want to call it.
The curbs.
The curbs. Yeah, they don't want to go up on it quite as hard, and you can kind of get a view of that from our cameras. Oh.
You paused there for a second. That makes me think you were hearing something in your ear.
Somebody was yelling in my ear.
Oh, good.
It's not anything. It's not anything horrifically bad. It's just interesting. Qui Kin, the 021 car, sounds like he might have lost an engine cover right there, which is unfortunate. The fortunate aspect of it, not for Mr. Kin, but for the rest of us, is it didn't land on the track.
Oh, good.
It's slightly off the track, so shouldn't be a problem.
So for those of you who are interested in how the sausage is made, Tristan's listening to our flag net. That's our flagging communication folks and all the stuff that they tell race control. He's got those headphones on. I'm listening to our other net, which is a lot of our other tow trucks and emergency services folks. So we're hearing at different times throughout the broadcast different messages being relayed back, and then we are able to decode and decipher those and deliver the information to you at home. So if we ever pause for a second, it's probably because we're listening to what's going on the net so that we can bring that information to you. 4 minutes to go here in this second race of the day. Your top five right now: Joseph Viso in the P1 car. Then you've got 3 Formula 3 cars, Nicole Havadra, Jay Horek, and Larry Schnur. And then in 5th and 6th place is the first 2 cars in F4. That's Preston Lambert and Dimitri Pistiolaco. And then the 7th and 8th cars are the first 2 cars in Sports 2000, and that is Edward Gunther and Ben Valentine. And then in 9th place, you've got your leading car in FE2, and that is Corey Condit.
It's good. Thanks for the update there. Give us an idea of just how things are looking. Joseph Vizo, by the way, just to give you an idea of the speed involved, they put up about 15 laps in this race, which is pretty good. It's definitely our most laps,
Correct,
right, that we see of any of our divisions, and that just gives you an idea of the general speed. There's a lot of chatter right now on the flag net because they're looking at this debris, and we have at least one car that's also off the course and is just kind of turned off, so that does happen. Just going to give a little bit of credit here. Crossing the line, number 144, Ben Valentine, and he is setting his fastest lap of the day so far. So well done right there to 153.250. So speed out there on the track. Still waiting to see if Joseph Vizo can pick it up anymore after his performance on lap number 11, but I figure he's probably going to give it a rest here. Would love to tell you that there was a intense battle happening around here somewhere in this group, but there's not really. I mean, they've all kind of settled into their rhythm, and they all are driving okay, except for the one that's off. That's about the only bad thing that's happened. Dimitri Pistioliaco is 0.7 of a second behind Preston Lambert, but has so far shown no inclination to pass.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity there, and trying to, but they do what they can here. And it's sometimes at the end of the race you just realize that you're not going to have the oomph to get that done, and you just settle for what you've got. And the good news is you get to take the car, put it back on the trailer in one piece, and bring it out the next weekend. Speaking of the next weekend, that is 3 weekends from now. We'll be back out here for the final races of the weekend here at Buttonwillow and for Cow Club. And let me look at the dates just to make sure.
I believe it's the first weekend in November, right? The 4th and the 5th, I want to say.
I believe that you're right.
So definitely something to keep an eye on right there. We are approaching our last lap here. The white flag is out on the flag stand. So the next time that our race leader, Joseph Vizo, goes around, the flag will be waved and we will head it in. 7-2 Blue had a little bit of an off and on 7-2 Blue had a little bit of an off and on right there. Losing my track record here because I got a lot of chatter in the ear right there. White flag is out. There we go. Our race leader across. That's Joseph Vizo, 144 on that lap. So doubt we're going to be seeing one that surpasses the 141.
And there we go. It's you're right. It's the 4th and 5th of November coming out here for our final race weekend of the year. So if you're interested in coming out and helping us volunteer or checking out the racing, check out calclub.com for all the information on that. White flag is in the air. Not too long down the road, we should see that checkered flag come out. Let me see if I can find. I bet you that is our leader there going up towards Riverside. That is my guess. I'll know better when he comes down here towards the drag strip. But he looks awful racy here. Yeah, I think that is, but I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again.
Again, it's a little bit hard to identify, right? That's just the way that it goes. Ben Valentine, by the way, who I shouted out for having his fastest lap, he's done now. I think he had to either go into the pit or he's off on the sides. That does happen. Number 21, Quig Kin, who did lose the engine cover, he is also pulled off on the side of the track or pulled into the pit. You've also lost Alexander Kornfeld and Larry Mason here in this race today, so 4 drivers out. I guess I shouldn't say lost. That's grim. No, they're not able to continue racing. But if you want to hear a wild statistic here, Brian,
all right,
and to show you how not sedentary, but just how set this race has been.
Yes.
Of the top 6 cars, none of them have shifted from their pole
Oh,
position
yeah.
here as the checkered flag comes out. And it's the one who led the entire time, Joseph Vizo, around for your overall race winner. But yeah, Joseph Vizo, Nicole Haradra, Jay Horak, Larry Schnurr, Preston Lambert, we'll get to all of them again, Dimitri Pistolacco. None of them have moved. It has been a solid top 6 this entire time for them.
Which is genuinely impressive. We actually don't see that little up and down.
Yeah.
Usually there's some jostling, at least on the first lap,
Sure.
when they come around. But no, they are just set in stone up there.
All right. All right, so let's do our full field rundown here, and we've got some information coming in about a little schedule change, I think. So let's do that. Give us the full field, and I will get us caught up with that.
All right, starting at the top of the order, number 52, your overall race winner, Joseph Vizo. He's also your winner in the P1 class. In second place, number 16, Nicole Havadra is the overall winner in the F3, followed by number 37, Jay Horak, number 3, Larry Schnurr, and number 17, Preston Lambert in 5th overall, and your overall winner for the F4s. Followed by number 33, Dimitri Pistoliaco. And then in 7th, number 2, Edward Gunther, your overall winner for the S2s. As followed by Corey Condrit, Cameron Parson, Barrett Wolf, Pyman Autad, Taylor Carmona, Emily DeHoos, and Andy Chan to round it out.
All right, there's your full field rundown after race number 2 here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Of course, these are the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. For all your racing brake needs and your streetcar brakes as well, go to porterfield-brakes.com. All right, so what I'm hearing now is because we have several cars out there that need to be snatched from the surly bonds of the desert of California, we're going to take our worker break now, which means we're going to have probably about 10 to 15 minutes of break here before we get back to our racing action. So stay with us. We'll be back probably within 10-15 minutes to start race number 3 on the day. That'll be Spec Miata. Actually pretty much all of the Miatas. That is up next here. So hang with us. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Cal Club SCCA Divisional Races presented by Porterfield Racing Brakes. Spec Miata Group, Spec Miata, Spec MX. I think it's all Spec Miatas today. So it's a Spec Miata Group that's up next, and our starting order comes to you from Mr. Tristan.
All right, starting at the back of the pack. In 12th, number 74, Gabe Estrada Jr. In 11th, number 75, David Mitchell. In 10th, number 17, Alan Lucart III. In 9th, number 93, Jorge Diaz. In 8th, number 7, Alan Lucart IV. In 7th, number 98, David Varco. In 6th, number 2, Austin Varco. In 5th, number 3, Ren Messenger. In 4th, number 37, Jeremy Rudder. In 3rd, number 10, Rocco Ruzick. In 2nd, number 35, Evan Jacobs. And then in first place overall at the start of the race, number 89, Clement Lee. And that is your full field rundown brought to you by the SCCA, the Inside the SCCA podcast, and of course, Porterfield Racing Brake Pads. Big reminder, if you're checking this out on YouTube Live or wherever you're seeing it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Go ahead and while you're at it, check out the Inside the SCCA podcast as well for more interesting racing action. Brian is everywhere, talks to everyone, gets them on, and they talk about all sorts of interesting stuff. So you do not want to miss out on that. Also, it's well produced. To its credit, I hear a lot of poorly produced podcasts out there. Not inside the SCCA.
Well,
it's good stuff.
you. I appreciate that. Lights are out on the pace car. I'm going to guess that maybe, yep, there they are. And they're probably also coming up on this camera as well as they come through Start Mazda and get to our third race of the afternoon, third of 5. And so after this, no more breaks now. We'll take you all the way to the finish unless we have any big schmozzles that need to be cleaned up. Let's hope that doesn't happen, knock on wood, or Formica, or some other type of surface.
For all our sakes, let's hope that doesn't happen. End of last race got a little wild right there.
That's right. So let me get a little timer up here and see if we can get this thing started properly this time. Pace car will be hitting pit lane here in a second, and then our pack will come onto the front straight, and we will see if we get ourselves a start here. Here comes the pack. Green flag is in the air, and we are going racing, folks. Spec Miata. 13, 14 cars barreling down towards the first corner. 3 wide now in the middle of the pack. Yesterday they went 4 wide, so this is an improvement.
Yeah.
So now we're waiting to see what happens. I've got a big post in my way, and then I've got Tristan's head in my way, but it looks like they got through the first corner clean.
Yeah, again, we should reemphasize a competitive group. We talked about this the other day. These guys like to race. They are very competitive. There are some good drivers in this group. The order has shifted a little bit from what it was yesterday. Austin Varco and David Varco were a little bit higher up than they were today. As Clement Lee and Evan Jacobs, they hold their relative position. Those are a couple of names that you'll hear. Rocco Ruzick struggled a little bit yesterday, kind of chewed their way back into it, and now they're into the top 3. And so that's a good start for them and probably where they like to be here. As they get started in that group of 3 that comes after first place, they are tight, actually, as they come down the dogleg into the riverbed. That's that wide right-hander right there. You're going to want to keep an eye on that group at the top. Looks like that's Evan Jacobs, Rocco Ruzick, and Jeremy Rudder. And you see right there on your screen as you come by, Ren Messenger and Austin Varco are just at the tail end of that pack there as well. So there's a lot going on at the very start of this race. Now, yesterday, Brian, they raced. It wasn't super competitive. They kind of fell into a bit of a rhythm, but there were definitely a couple of battles out there. There was a lot of shifting of spots. These guys and the Spec Racer Fords tend to be the most competitive classes out here on the track in the sense that they really do go for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And these cars here, as long as they can keep that pack drafting together, they're often put on the most exciting whole show of the weekend here. So as you can see, there's the tail end of the pack coming through the S's. I was listening to the net here trying to see what was going on, and and just getting everything back in order here. A little puff of dust from the front couple of cars here as they now come past us here at the start-finish line. And we will see that Clement Lee, Evan Jacobs, just like yesterday, 1 and 2. Slight difference, though. Rocco Ruzick and Jeremy Rudder now up in 3 and 4. Austin Varco, who finished third yesterday, is now in 5th place. And then as Alan Lukart, the 4th, who had a great run yesterday, he has now worked his way into 6th place. That's up 2 positions from where he started.
Yeah, that's a little bit of shifting in the groups there, as to be expected. That's what we commented on the end of our last race. It was an abnormality that the top 6 really didn't shift at all, because usually in that first lap, as they come down into Sunrise, there is some, shuffling and some movement down there. No different here today in the Spec Miatas. As you look at the A section right there, I'm watching some of our drivers come here down the dog leg, all pretty even spaced in that group of 5 that is in the lead, and that's about what we would expect. These drivers, they like to draft. They like to get in behind one another, and they're all very strategic. I will give them that credit as well. They really know how to pick their targets and how to pick their moments. Something you got to watch out for on someone like Austin Varco is that he has a real sense for when to make his moves. So if you've got him trailing you like you do right now, if you're Jeremy Rudder, you got to be very careful about that. And if you don't believe me in terms of the tightness of that front pack, you should know that the last time they came across the line, 3rd, 4th, and 5th all had about 0.2 of a second difference between them. So we're talking a fraction of a hair of an inch here in between these 2 guys, or these 3 guys, and they will shift. I think it is almost guaranteed. It's just a matter of the how and the when, not so much perhaps the what. Now, looking at the rest of the lineup right here, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle of dirt. Not sure where it comes from. Here comes some movement across the line. Number 39, Rocco Ruzick, will go ahead and slip in behind Evan Jacobs. But there's the movement. Jeremy Rudder made a little bit of an error, and that's all it takes. And off and on. And Austin Varco pounced on that to take the 4th place overall spot, having moved up 2 now in the grid. Jeremy Rudder dropping back to 5th overall. Ren Messenger, I don't know what happened to him, but he's dropped back into 6th. So 2 cars poached by Austin Varco here as he sets his sights on Rocco Ruzick. He's still about a second behind Rocco Ruzick, but I think that's a surmountable gap right there.
Yeah, still very, very close. Less than 3 seconds separate 1st through 5th here. And that's more of what we expect from this Spec Miata group. Usually the top 5 or 4 stick together, and that is essentially what is happening here. None of them have a real close draft with anybody around them, so that is what's allowing them to kind of keep that gap, keep those gaps about the same. Now, if any of those top 5 cars can hook up and really start drafting, that will be an opportunity to start to pull away from some of those cars. But right now, there's 2 or 3 car lengths in between each of the cars, so they're all getting a little bit of a draft, but not the major benefits from tight draft from being right up underneath the bumper of the car in front of you. So, but it is close enough where you do get to see all of that benefit from there. Now we can see that those lead 5 cars coming through the Star Mazda corner. Then they hit the S's and start coming right towards us here. And that first place car is Clement Lee, followed by Jacobs, Ruzick, Varco, and Rudder. That's your top 5 right now. 23.5 minutes to go in this race. Of course, the Cow Club SCCA Divisional races brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes.
Well, here comes leadership across the line. Clement Lee, Evan Jacobs, Rocco Ruzick, Roston Ruzick, Rutro. Yeah, it's very Scooby-Doo of
That's
me.
right.
Rocco
We'll get you a
Ruzick.
Scooby snack and everything will be fine.
Austin Varco, Jeremy Rudder right there. Evan Jacobs setting the fastest lap of the race so far at a 2:10.595. Good for Evan Jacobs in his hunt to catch Clement Lee. He's only about 0.5 of a second behind. But Austin Varco He's only about 0.4 of a second behind Rocco Ruzick. So there's the prowl is on right there. And if you're sitting in the hot seat, Evan Jacobs, or I should say Rocco Ruzick, has to know that Jeremy Rudder got picked off behind him. He can see colors, I assume. So he's got something to worry about there as well.
Sounds like a Hollywood movie with Liam Neeson, Hunt to Catch Clement Lee, next on Netflix.
A lot of the language of racing, when you think about it, has some weird. It's very predatory.
It is.
You know.
It is.
Very much so, but Austin Varco trying to be the apex predator out there right now, and you got to appreciate the run there. He's the predator from the movie at the moment, and you can actually see as they come down there through the riverside, he's closing the gap on Rocco Ruzick. Yesterday, Austin Varco is a driver that we obviously like to talk about. He's very talented. He's a great young man, but he also didn't have the best performance yesterday. He did fine, but not where we would almost always expect him. And my Lord, they are close coming down on the drag strip.
Right.
So that's setting up, in my mind at least, Brian, for a pass coming up when you either hit the small straightaway on the S's coming into the sunset turn, or on the front straight itself right here as you come past the tower. So we'll see how that plays out. But, yeah, you can see from that camera, he already made the pass. I don't know where he did it, but I'm pretty sure he already made it. As Austin Varco, it looks like he got around Rocco Ruzick as well, but we'll confirm when they come around the tower.
Right, so what these three drivers in third, fourth, and fifth need to do is work together now. Because what's happening is that Lee and Jacobs are starting to work together at the front. And if those three cars can now hook up and work together, as you said, Austin Varco made the move.
Oh, I don't think working together is in their minds.
It does not appear.
Because
apparently I'm not in their ears, so it is they're not listening to me. But, yeah, working together would help them possibly win the race, but it's a lot more fun to not work together and race.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that was in their game plan because Rocco Ruzick was trying to get the pass on the sunrise as they came down, get around the inside edge of Austin Varco, and he did not succeed. But they were neck and neck coming into that turn, and honestly, good reactivity for both of them. That was as clean as it was. Now they're kind of grouped up, and yeah, you got to watch out. Also, if you're the two leaders in this group, all of them battling for third place, by the way, we should say.
Right.
But if you're the two leaders in this group, you have to keep a weather eye on Jeremy Rudder, right? Who's basically just running behind them right now, kind of letting them race it out. But here we go again, number 10, Rocco Ruzick powering up on the dog leg. I think he tried to go for a pass right there again. Austin Varco rather adroitly blocked him on that, and he wasn't able to get it off. And so he has to slow down just one more time, and that's going to be a little bit frustrating. You can see, actually, as they come down here through our Riverside cam, how close they are. At number 10 car, just trying to worm it around. And honestly, Austin Varco, he's getting a lot of pushback from Rocco Ruzick right there, and a big cloud of dust coming up.
Well, he doesn't need pushback. He needs a push.
Oh.
And that is what would be really important here is for those cars to work with each other to push towards the front. And now there's been someone who went off there in the at the end of coming out of Phil Hill. And who was it?
It is...
Was it Ruzick?
Yes. Yeah. It was Rocco Ruzick who was pushing it to the limit. He was walking on the razor's edge right there, trying to get around Austin Varco. It did not work out. And you actually saw, this is what I was talking about with that third car in the group. The minute that happened, that Rocco Ruzick hit dirt, Jeremy Rudder pounced on that and went right past him.
Right.
But now there's another big kick of dust, and I think they might have almost reversed positions there for a second. Jeremy Rudder taking his half out of the middle and nearly getting jumped back on by Rocco Ruzick. And Austin Varco has now just kind of cleared out his competition a little bit to hold on to that third place.
Well, and here's the good news and the bad news. This ends up playing out a lot like yesterday. Varco doesn't have a partner now, and he needs a dance partner to be able to catch back up to the leaders. While all of this is happening, Clement Lee and Evan Jacobs are just kind of rubbing their hands together because it's beautiful for them. They now have a 3-second lead over third place, and they're doing the right thing, working together, waiting and checking this out. And while they're doing that 1-2 dance, the other two people are stepping on each other's feet, and they're not working together. And we're going to end up having a very similar situation as yesterday, whereas Austin Varco is going to be mired in third place without anybody to help him get to the front and no way to catch those folks because they're working together with a draft. I'm just saying.
No, you're making
saying.
a very valid point right there as well. And Austin Varco, as you see him on the camera coming through here in that kind of creamsicle colored car, he really is sort of floating, right, in his own little world now between them. And I mean, if he's happy with coming in third, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not going to be as productive as if he had worked with his two partners in the back. But again, that's just not how the Spec Miatas tend to work. I say that though, and if you look at the front right there, you would have seen Clement Lee and Evan Jacobs, who are actually pretty tight on one another in the lead. So whether that's Evan Jacobs trying to set up for an eventual pass on Clement Lee, or whether they're just building up speed together, whatever it is, I think they're pulling ahead of Austin Varco. And if you look over at the timing so far, you'll notice that Evan Jacobs has now twice in a row set the fastest lap as they come in here for lap number 6. We'll see what his time is when he comes across the line. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's heating up, and a little bit of a dust kick up there from Clement Lee doesn't actually slow the speed all that much or close the gap. And then they are through and across the line, and I am looking to see if Evan Jacobs went any faster, but no, he slowed down just a tiny little bit right there. Clement Lee speeding up instead. So the two of them sort of spiraling around one another right now as Austin Varco tries almost in vain to catch up.
Yeah, it's really a situation where the second place car should run the faster laps because it's getting the benefit of the draft. So, that doesn't surprise me necessarily. And they're doing a really nice job of working together. And, in a perfect world, they'll do this for another 10 minutes or so here. And when they get to the 5 minutes to go mark, they'll have a big enough lead where they can just beat and thrash on each other to the finish line. And whoever the better driver is will end up with the checkered flag. So we're coming up here on the halfway point here. I think it's time to try to do a full field rundown here. This is brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast. Clement Lee is your race leader. Evan Jacobs is in second. Austin Varco third, followed by Jeremy Rutter and Rocco Ruzick. That rounds out your top 5. Then we've got Ren Messenger, Alan Lukert the fourth, Jorge Diaz, David Mitchell, and Gabe Estrada Jr. That's your top 10 right there. And then in 11th and 12th, you've got Alan Lukert the third and David Varco. David Varco in last place right now must have had some sort of a problem in the early laps because he's usually, very much closer to the fronty end of the pack, the pointy end of the pack. He's usually running up there in the top 5 and sometimes even higher up. So my suspicion is that he had a moment early in the race or is having some sort of car problems. So that is your full field rundown here, brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast and the Racing Wire Podcast Network. And, of course, these are the Cal Club SCCA Divisional races brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes.
Number 17, Alan Lukert III, looks like he's had a mechanical error and has pulled off the track, so his race day, I think, is going to be over. He was down towards the bottom, but probably the mechanical error will go some way as to explain that. As we watch our race leaders coming across the line, Evan Jacobs and Clement Lee seem perfectly happy to follow one another around, about 1.1 of a second between the two of them. A little bit of chase down the line. Rocco Ruzick could have been in the mix here as well, but a big gap between Ruzick and Ren Messenger in 6th place. That's a whole 10 seconds between them. Alan Lukert, we'll go back to the Alan Lukert the fourth, not Alan Lukert the third, in number 7. He's actually, so he's in a green car, if you'll see him on your cameras every once in a while. He's actually looking, I think, to chase down Ren Messenger and move himself up a place, because he's only about 0.33 of a second behind. So he's genuinely quite close here. As we watch them come down the dog leg, we might actually pick them up in a minute on one of our cameras, but you see when you do that he's closing down, and now I'm sure he's perfectly happy to maintain that pacing. Again, what it does become for a lot of these Spec Miata drivers is sort of a game of playing patience, and you're just waiting for your openings. See case in point, everything that happened between Austin Varco, Jeremy Rutter, and Rocco Ruzick earlier on in this race, but there you go on your screen for a second there. Alan Lukert the fourth and Ren Messenger
All right, so we'll pick up that battle for 6 with Ren Messenger and Alan Lukert the fourth, and we'll follow them around here for a lap or two. As you can see, there's Lukert the fourth right behind that car, and last time past the line, they were 0.3 of a second. That looks closer than 0.3 of a second to me, and we'll find out if in fact the 7 car is catching the 3 car here when they come across the timing stripe again. But that does not look like 0.3 of a second, folks. We'll know for certain here in about a quarter of a lap.
Now we'll be able to see them come by here as well. All eyes on the pumpkin as we wait for them to pass.
That's right. Here they come on to the... Oh, well, that's not going to help Mr. Lukert. He just went way off right, and he will be probably more than 0.3 of a second because of that mistake.
He will.
And it's 1.197 seconds. So
that's all it takes.
You're right, exactly. That was actually a pretty big off. That may have been a 4 off. And but he's now back in it, and he will now have to make up all that extra time that he just lost. And not a problem necessarily. There's still 11 and a half minutes to go here. But that's frustrating when you work your way up there and then dang it, I made a mistake, and now I got to go after it again.
So the backsliding, really, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you take 1 step forward, you take 2 steps back.
Right.
Clement Lee, though, he's all steps forward there in the lead. He set his fastest lap and the fastest lap overall here with a 2:10.
2:10.187, pulling up the list of track records.
Oh, that's interesting.
Stand by.
Standing by.
What are we? We are on the 25.8 clockwise. Oops, hold on, wrong button. Hold on. There it is. Spec Miata's lap record here is...
If you're wondering why it takes so long, there's a lot of classes of cars.
There are.
Therefore, a lot of records. And
there
all the classes are indicated by letters. So
2:06.3 is the lap record.
Holy hell.
So,
who set that?
That was set by Dakota Dickerson back in 2015. So here's the situation. Every once in a while, these spec classes get different spec tires. And I'm pretty certain that 2:06 was set on on a different tire than we are on now.
That's wicked
which is tough, yeah, because now that means that spec tire, that track record's very hard to reaccomplish. I'm not certain of that, but I'll do some research and come back to you next time with the answer on that. But so a 2:10.187, it would be so hard to keep track of track records for those little nuances from class to class.
No way, yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, that's tough.
Well, everybody's kind of spaced back out again. There's a 0.7 gap between Rocco Ruzic and Jeremy Rutter, so a little bit of a chase on there. But much like yesterday, actually, some very intense early competition here among the Spec Miatas, and then they've sort of just flattened out into their assigned roles and are now just making their passes.
And then you've got your race leaders. Even Clement Lee is pulled apart a little bit from Evan Jacobs.
He has. Yeah, they're no longer together.
Which makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because I'm an announcer and it's all about me.
We do like a bit of drama.
Drama.
I must admit, we do like a bit of drama.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And
we'll manufacture it where it doesn't exist.
We will 100% if we have to. That's right. But in all fairness to these guys, right? They are competitive. We've hyped up their competitiveness. They aren't competing for anything, but the pride of it. So.
Well, there is that, but there are also some folks trying to get to the national championship.
Actually, it's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that.
So,
yeah.
and they're competing for regional championships and divisional championships.
You're Austin Barcos of the world.
There's no big monetary prize at the end of the rainbow, but there is bragging rights, and we do keep track of the points. So, so.
That's very valid, yeah. I had not thought of it that much.
Well, and if you come in third by 12 seconds, you come in third by 2/10 of a second, the points are the exact same. So it's, that's how I always try to think about it.
It's lovely to watch amateur racing. I do sometimes feel like, I also love watching professional racing, and I do feel like it sometimes poisons the well a bit because you're in those giant packs on very different courses with very different cars, and you're kind of lulled into a sense of there must be something happening all the time.
Right.
Speaking of things happening, though, we like our drama. There is some now. Number 10, catching up on the backside of Jeremy Rudder right here as they head down into Sunrise. That is Jeremy Rudder just holding off Rocco Ruzick, who does like to pass on that particular turn.
And they should be coming into our view any second.
Yeah,
here.
we should be seeing them because there's Austin Varco coming around. There are the two of them. And you'll see they're very close now. So Rocco Ruzick, he's making moves. He's not happy to end in 5th place. He would rather have a 4th next to his name by the looks of it. And poor Jeremy Rudder, who has lost 4th and gone back to 4th here in the course of events. I doubt he wants to lose it again when he's got Rocco Ruzick on his tail. So that's one to actually watch out for, and I appreciate those gentlemen for getting into the spirit of it. Let's keep an eye out on how that develops. As they come down in here in the dog leg, though, speed the factor and speed favoring Jeremy Rudder right there. He's starting to pull ahead. Rocco Ruzick looking for the chase. He won't quite find it just yet. He is over on Riverside, closing it up again. And this is going to be one of those things where does someone put a wheel out of alignment? Does someone hit dirt? Because it reminds me a little bit of what we saw between Rocco Ruzick and Austin Varco, where Rocco Ruzick was belting sort of hell for leather to get around Austin Varco. And then he made a boo-boo on one of these turns, for lack of a better word. He put 2 wheels off, or even a part of a wheel off, and that was all it took for the gap to open wide up. So the only benefit for both of them here in this scenario, or mostly for Rocco Ruzick, is that he does not have Ren Messenger nipping at his heels in turn to pass, which is how Jeremy Rudder got back into 4th place. Well, they are still bumper to bumper right there as they come up through the S's.
Well, and when 2 cars like that are connected and really working well together, it is, I hate to sound romantic about it, but it's a beautiful thing to watch. When you've got 2 cars and 2 drivers who are that simpatico in how they're trying to get the job done, and especially when you see it go 3, 4, 5, 6 laps like that, it's really, really a cool thing to watch.
He got him on Sunset. We can't quite see it. We only get the tail end.
Yeah.
And this is why we need sponsorships, by the way, so we can get full camera coverage.
A few more
of the
cameras.
track. Yeah, a few more cameras. He got him on the Sunset turn, so good on Rocco Ruzick right there for finding his way around Jeremy Rudder. But I will say, as they extended down towards Sunrise, coming out of Sunset, number 37 was not taking it lying down. He's chasing right after him. So the two of them are going back and forth. Meanwhile, Clement Lee, Evan Jacobs. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, Clement Lee, Evan Jacobs, and Austin Varco are all basically just doing their thing. None of them are in passing distance here. We're just under 5 minutes or thereabout. None of them are in passing distance. None of them are going to end up in passing distance unless something goes really bad. There's a certain cold finality to it when it gets to a certain point where you're like, there's just no way this shifts.
Well, but we've seen also, if you get us a little bit wrong and put a couple of wheels off, that it just makes it work. That's why we run all the laps, because you just never know what's going to happen in the final 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
This is why you play things out. This is why you play things out. You don't quit early. You never know how it's going to go. You never know what's going to happen. We can say on balance the likelihood is unlikely.
Sure.
We will not say definitively. And I got weirded out for a second because there's a gentleman on an ATV down there, but I realized pretty quickly it was the photographer.
Yep.
And I was like, what is that guy going to do right now?
He's going to take some pictures.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's going to take photos. How appropriate.
Exactly. And here comes Ruzick and Rudder coming through the S's here. And we're coming to the point now where they've probably got about 2 laps left here.
I would say that's a fair guess.
Yeah. And we're going to get this thing wrapped up. So if Jeremy Rudder is going to try to make that move into 4th place, he is running out of time to do that.
Good call. Because I just hear scoring in my ear saying that they are on their next time by white flag. So about 2 laps left here total.
We're up on the 1 lap to go in this race. So Group 5 cars to the grid.
The white flag is unveiled, ready to be waved. The next time Clement Lee comes around, Alan Lukart and Ren Messenger come by. Their battle ended rather abruptly in a cloud of dirt. Jorge Diaz, David Mitchell, Gabe Estrada Jr., they are all there at the tail end as well. And David Varco must have had some sort of mechanical error.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened there because he is way down in the listings today. He is at the bottom of the pack, and that is incredibly atypical
Right.
For David Varco, who, like his son, is usually right up there in the
Right.
top 5, top 6 at the worst.
Right.
So I don't know what went down.
Yeah,
but
because his fast lap of the day, and he's run 11 laps. His fast lap of the day
Yeah.
is a 2:17.
he's
So
been racing the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming something's off with the car.
Sure.
There's the only justifiable explanation for that.
yeah,
Other than that, I feel like most everybody is about where we would expect them to be. Austin Varco, he would like to be leading, but I don't think he's going to be seeing the top of the podium here today. Never say never, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
it's probably true.
Here's our drag strip again. What I'm curious to see is if Jeremy Rudder and Rocco Ruzic, if Jeremy Rudder just sort of accepts fate and holds that spot, or if he goes hard to try and burn his way through. And yeah, sure enough, there's the number 98 car of David Varco coming across the line just now. His fastest lap of the day is a 2:15, so it does go to show you he's
Which he just hit.
so something funky
Yeah.
going on down there. Here's the white flag out now, and that'll be for Clement
Well,
Lee and the number 89, so we are on our last lap.
The other question is, at this point, with 1 lap to go, does Jeremy Rudder have any tires left on this car?
That's a very
Did
good
he
point.
use them all up just trying to get to the back bumper of Rocco Ruzic, and then he got there and there was nothing left in the tank tire-wise? Because you look at now, when they cross the line, they're going to cross the line with a gap of now 0.074 seconds. So not nearly as close together as they were 2 or 3 laps ago. And the tires may have given up the ghost here with a minute to go on the final lap of this race. And as you can see now, that gap's even wider now between Ruzic and Rudder. So unless someone makes a mistake here, I think we're pretty much right where we're going to be with Lee, Jacobs, Varco, Ruzic, and Rudder being your top 5. But we will pay attention. We will not pre-call this.
No, we will not pre-call it. We will let them finish it out, as you would expect, watching Austin Varco coming on the dog leg here. Jeremy Rudder following at a cautious distance behind Rocco Ruzic. I do not think that you might very well be right, Brian. The tires might just not
Yeah.
be there, honestly. For
Especially
that
at the end of a weekend, if he tried to get through the whole weekend on one set of tires, which a
some
lot
of
of
the guys
times
do, yeah.
Well, they do, and that's one of the joys of a spec class. They try to keep the cost down, so they try to keep a set of tires able to be used and be really competitive for as long as possible. And usually they can get a whole weekend of racing out of one set of tires. But by the end of Sunday now, they've done an hour of hard racing, and on top of practice and qualifying, it might just be that there's not a whole lot left on those tires.
Well, on the starter tower, the checkered flag has been held aloft.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the leader to come on down now. It's like The Price is Right. You're the next contestant on Win a Spec Miata race. And this would be Clement Lee. Checkered flag is in the air for the number 89 car. Crosses the line and takes the win. Second place is going to be Evan Jacobs. We'll wait just a second for Austin Varco. Here he comes across the line. Couple of lap cars first, then Austin Varco, Rocco Ruzic, and Jeremy Rudder.
Well, let's go ahead and provide you with our end of the race final rundown of the field here. So in the lead, your overall race winner, number 89, Clement Lee. In second, number 35, Evan Jacobs. In third, number 2, Austin Varco. In fourth, number 10, Rocco Ruzic. In fifth, number 37, Jeremy Rudder, followed by number 3, Red Messenger, number 7, Alan Lucart IV, number 93, Jorge Diaz, number 75, David Mitchell, number 74, Gabe Estrada Jr., and number 98, David Varco. And in your DNF, it's number 17, Alan Lucart III. That is your full field rundown here at the end of Group 4's race, the Spec Miatas. Thank you so much for joining us, and yeah.
We'll be right back with our second to last race of the day. That's our Spec Racer Fords, Formula Fs, and Formula Vs. That's up next. You are watching the Cow Club SCCA Divisional races from Buttonwillow Raceway Park, presented by Porterfield Racing Brakes. Stay with us. We'll be right back. race number 4 of 5 getting ready to start here. This is Spec Racer Ford, Formula F, Formula V, and I think that's all. We have FFTS as well. So that's what's coming up here. We've got our starting order here, and Tristan here is here to take care of that for us.
Yeah, let's run it down really quick. Starting in the back of the pack, number 15, in 15th, number 76, Scott Renner. In 14th, number 74, Mark Edwards. In 13th, number 19, Norm Marshall. In 12th, number 71, Douglas Stewart. Alongside him, number 18, Aaron Stein. Starting in 10th, number 16, Mike Moshe. In 9th, number 197, Mark Ballingy. In 8th, number 55, Jay Rosenthal. In 7th, number 22, Robert Edmondson. In 6th, number 8, Edward Erlinson. In 5th, number 40, Robert Simpson. In 4th, number 48, Eric Polson. In 3rd, number 29, Ricky Simpson. In 2nd, number 5, Eric Little. And then starting in pole position at the front of the pack, number 27, Stuart Patterson.
And Stuart Patterson, Eric Little, they were the class of yesterday's race.
Indeed,
and
they were.
Starting up front again today. They put on a pretty good show for us. I spent a little bit of time last night with Ricky and Robert Simpson. They were burning the midnight oil here at the racetrack, doing some work on the cars, and we'll tell you a little bit about the conversation I had with them here in just a few minutes. Once we get our race started, as you can see, our cars now coming up over the hill here at Phil Hill, and now down towards the drag strip here. Mitch Schwartzberg, our pace car driver, is leading them down. Lights are still on, but those lights will come off here very quickly, and I'm just hearing from race control. It pretty much as soon as he got out of our view, turned off the lights on us. So they're going to come around here through Star Mazda, and then we'll see them through the S's. They'll hopefully line up pretty 2x2, nice enough so that our starter likes what he sees. And if he does, he will throw the green flag, and we will wait for that to happen with bated breath.
We will see how that goes. Formula Fords, it is a bit of a split start, I believe. Formula Ford's taking the lead, and then the Spec Racers and the Formula Vs, they're following it up, such as it were. So when we speak about groups, we'll make sure to give you an idea if we're talking about a leader of, say, the Formula Fords or the Spec Racers or what have you. The Formula Vs, there's only 2 of them, and they just kind of do their own thing. So not as impactful. And there you can just see the tail end of the train here as the Spec Racer Fords come sailing by. Small Spec Racer Ford field this weekend, actually, as the green flag goes out and our attention shifts back to the Formula Fords as they get underway here, coming across 2x2 and powering into Sunrise, trying to find some openings. A little bit of jostling right there, but everybody comes through relatively clean.
And now we wait for our Spec Racer Ford group to come around and do the same thing. We will see them here in just a second. Take the green flag here. It will be in the air in just a second. And now it is. And here comes our Spec Racer Fords doing the dance here as they come across the line. As we switch to our camera that's pointed towards A section, Ford scampered through there pretty quickly already, so they're already on and along their lap here. But we'll catch the Spec Racer Fords here in just a second. Here they come, all 7 or 8 of them here as they come down the line one more time. And I can tell you right now that Mark Ballingy is in that yellow car in 3rd place. You know, I always tell the people, if you want us to talk about your cars, paint them yellow, because then I can pick it out from a long ways away. Here's your leaders in Formula F. And Formula FFTS as they come through Riverside and up and over the hill. We'll pick them up here on the backside of that hill as they come into our view. And 2nd and 3rd place side by side still here as they push on through our first lap. And they're still a little bit racy there. And, of course, can't forget about our Formula Vs at the end of the field there. We've got some folks down there. Mark Edwards and Scott Renner. Yep.
I do love those little Formula Vs.
Yeah, fun to watch. Fun to watch.
They are good. They're one of the starting kind of blocks too for
Yep.
like iRacing as
Yep.
well as real life racing.
I
So,
do when I'm not at the racetrack on Saturday mornings. I race a
there you go.
V in iRacing, and
Yeah.
and when I am and then on Sundays if I have time, there is a Spec Racer Ford Liga that I'm part of.
I gotta get my setup together. I gotta do some racing. That would be good fun. I keep always thinking about it and I keep forgetting it. Keep it in mind, by the way. Speaking of competition, the Spec Racer Ford group is one of our more competitive ones.
Right,
So you're
right.
gonna want to keep an eye out here. Robert Edmondson, Jay Rosenthal, Mark Ballingy, they were very competitive yesterday.
Yes.
And they no doubt will be similar today. Here comes Edmondson and Ballingy. And Jay Rosenthal either has not raced or is not in that mix. He might not be here today because I don't see his car come through, which means that it's probably going to be the majority of the focus here on Mark Ballingy and Robert Edmondson. So those two are both very talented. They are both very good, and they are both very aggressive drivers. And you will see, you might see as we progress, Mark Ballingy goes absolutely hell for leather out there when he's racing in these spec racers. So something to keep an eye on. I got distracted for a second there by the giant tractor or trailer that is pulling out. Aviati Jet Club are heading home for the weekend.
There you go.
Huge. Anyway,
one more note on the Spec Racer Ford and Formula V iRacing leagues. A big shout out to Ray Esports. Ray runs the unofficial SCCA iRacing leagues. And you don't have to be an SCCA member to join them, but if you aren't, you have to make a little donation to the SCCA Foundation. But it's mostly SCCA members, so you don't get a lot of that craziness that you get when you go to just a generic iRacing league. These are usually racers who are trying to race clean and not do iRacing shenanigans. But all of us got together at the runoffs. A bunch of us, people who just know each other from iRacing, got together in person, take a big picture, and Ray was there. And it was a good time. So good on him.
Should point him in my direction. I know something about esports.
I will. Maybe you and I can call some of those races
yeah,
together.
I was going to say I know something about iRacing, but keeping an eye out now. This is a smaller field than it was yesterday, so it's a little bit more, I think, sedate out there at the moment, which is okay. Robert Edmondson and Mark Ballingy, both of them maintaining a nice pace as they come across here. Mark Ballingy is, heating up a little bit. He's only about 1.2 behind. Then Mike Moshe and Douglas Stewart after some time. Aaron Stein in there as well. But only about 5 Spec Racer Fords out today.
We should also keep a close eye here on this race at the top in FFTS. There is a very, very small blanket over the top 3 cars, less than a second and a half. Ricky Simpson, who is the nephew of Robert Simpson, I learned that yesterday.
Interesting.
They were working on the cars late last night. I talked to them again today. They wrapped up work just after midnight. And they didn't have any major problems, just trying to make the car a little bit better. Well, it looks like they've done something there because Ricky Simpson is now in first place. So whatever things they did appear to be doing the right stuff.
Yeah, Ricky Simpson is powering through today. 157.03. He is definitely doing great. Out there. Stu Patterson and Eric Little kind of fallen behind in context, though it is not widely different between them. I think it's worth clarifying. Here comes Ricky Simpson. Well, he's opened it up a little bit on that last lap, 155. That's a good time right there. Stuart Patterson a whole 1.3 back, and then you have actually Eric Little in that mixture as well. So there's definitely some things to keep an eye on down there. Robert Simpson as well. He's in the hunt to move up a spot. He's looking to knock off Eric Polson. So we'll see if he can pull that together and close the 0.6 second gap between them.
And then taking a quick look at our Formula Vs, Mark Edwards has a 1.5 second lead over Scott Renner in the race for the lead in Formula V. Here comes your Spec Racer Ford lead group as they come across the line. At least I believe that's the lead group. Although I don't see Mr. Ballingy in there, so maybe that is not the lead group.
Yeah, some weird stuff going down in Spec Racers. I'm not entirely sure because Jay Rosenthal is actually out there.
Okay.
He just had a really bad first lap. Probably he must have gone off or something because he's now catching back up.
Sure.
But he's got a hell of a lot of work to do if he wants to get around Aaron Stein. He's got 22 seconds to make up, so that might almost be close to an insurmountable challenge. Edmondson and Ballingy, that gap has actually opened up. Ballingy was trying, I think, to catch up to Edmondson, and Edmondson said no way coming down into the dog leg. They closed back up a little bit coming down into the river bend, but they're still wide out. Here comes your groups, your leaders again around the front. Ricky Simpson, Stuart Patterson, Eric Little, Eric Polson. Ricky Simpson picking up even more speed there as he comes around. 155.15 on the clock. Stuart Patterson trying to catch. He's setting a fast lap for himself as well, but it ain't that fast. Still 2 seconds behind.
Quick reminder that if people are riding inside cars, whether it be race cars or street cars, they have to be entirely inside
Robert
the car.
Simpson
Can't be sitting on
here
the frame,
looking like he's in a position where he could potentially catch Eric Polson, so that's another one to keep an eye on, and we have been watching it pretty diligently. Here comes number 22 and number 8, or number 22 and 197, Mark Ballingy and Robert Edmondson. Mark Ballingy making up time on Edmondson, not a lot of time, but making up time, and they were neck and neck almost when they came around. You could really see Mark Ballingy trying to power forward on the back of Edmondson's run. The rest of our Spec Racers coming through now. Jay Rosenthal should be in sight in just a minute.
You were talking about Jay Rosenthal. His first lap was a 2:33. His second lap was a 2:05. So definitely something happened there. Maybe he went off or whatever the case may be. But now he's back on pace and working his way up through the field.
It's definitely got to be frustrating. He's made up about 2 seconds on Aaron Stein. He's only got 20 more seconds to go. Meanwhile, the gap between Edmondson and Ballingy continues to stay about the same, if not widen a little bit. In just a second here, we'll be seeing our leaders coming across. We'll see if Ricky Simpson manages to set yet another fast lap. He has been going real quick out there on the track, and sure enough, he heats up again, a whole nother fastest lap. He's being chased by Stuart Patterson, but Patterson is 5.7 seconds back. He is not catching. Eric Little, however, is catching 0.6 seconds on the chase of Stuart Patterson. Most of the Spec Racers coming online on that last lap. Robert Edmondson, Mike Moshe, Douglas Stewart, Aaron Stein, Jay Rosenthal, all with their fastest lap of the day on lap number 4. Mark Edwards also putting up his fastest time in the Formula V car. The Glandring right there doing some good work. Stuart Patterson still chasing Ricky Simpson. We saw him just a second ago, but they are not closing that gap anytime soon. I think Ricky Simpson, whatever tuning they did to that car last night, has turbocharged him a bit because he just keeps getting faster. I wouldn't be surprised if he came around this time, Brian, and was still setting a higher speed than he had been.
Whatever they did, whether they use a notebook or a computer to write down their notes, they need to highlight and circle it for the next time.
The formula worked.
Exactly. So, and I'm sure now if I go over there and ask them what they did, they will not share with me the secret.
No, I doubt it very much. No, that's proprietary.
That is right.
That is right. Close to the chest, I think.
All right, so I think we're going to catch our leaders in Spec Racer Ford here coming through Grapevine, or Riverside, I'm sorry, next. Here they come. That was your Formula V leaders, and that is your lead group here in Spec Racer Ford, I think, right there. First, second, and third. Maybe. Or is that second? Oh, there's a huge gap between Edmondson and Ballingy.
There is, yeah.
Oh, no. There's only 3/10 between Edmondson and Valley. It's a
No,
big gap back
you're-
to third place.
Sorry,
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
Moshe and Mark Ballingy, they're wide open, and that does tend to happen with the spec racers. Usually, there's like a lead group, and then everybody kind of slots in. I think the only difference here today is that Jay Rosenthal is not in that lead pack.
Right.
Usually, we'd expect kind of the three of them. Absent some of the other racers that are not here, we would expect them to kind of be the top group, and it is not the case here today.
Some really weird things going on today. Maybe it's the Halloween spookiness that's
maybe
going
it's
on
the
here.
spirit of the season. I
That's
don't know.
right, because there is some odd stuff that I'm seeing out there. There's your leaders here in Spec Racer 4 just flying by. They just made it past the Formula Vs, so they
Yeah.
put them a full lap down from both classes now.
Speaking of spookiness, there's a specter haunting the car of Robert Edmondson, and that is 100% Mark Ballingy. Like, coming down the straight here, he does not want to let go right there. I don't know if our good friend Robert Edmondson is ever going to be able to exercise that particular spirit off the back of his car, because this is getting towards, I mean, we got about half the race left, but this is starting to get to the positioning that Mark Ballingy really likes to play off of. He really likes to get aggressive. He likes to push it. He will kind of drive to take cars and take space and kind of force cars to play around him. And, I mean, that's a very viable thing to do out there as they come into Riverside. The issue that Mark Ballingy consistently seems to face is that every time they hit the dog leg into Riverside, he's just not getting the same amount of speed that Robert Edmondson is. For whatever reason, he's just not picking it up. So as close as he gets when they come down the front straight, every time they hit the back side of the track, Robert Edmondson opens it up, and then their whole thing resets again. So they've done that dance now a couple of times. I am genuinely curious if there's going to be an opportunity here for Mark Ballingy to really grab his opponent by the horns and kind of swing himself around. And he can do it. We've seen him do it many times.
Sure.
So it's very much like we were talking about with the Spec Miatas. It's a pick your moment sort of battle right there between those two.
Well, and the moment is usually at the end of the race. If you make that move too soon, then you have to defend for 10 minutes, and that's usually not the best strategy for doing these things. So we will keep a close look on that and see what happens.
Well, he just came by us, I think, again, if I got my cars right. And once more, the gap closed up right there on the straight. And then once more, it starts to open up. Mark Ballingy just nipping at the heels of Robert Edmondson once that pass. And Robert Edmondson is not giving it up.
Here they come through the A section. And moving down through our camera there. No issues so far as we get to the halfway point. Let's do a full field rundown, Tristan.
Sure thing. Here's your full field rundown at the halfway of the point of the race. Brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. Starting in first place, number 29, Ricky Simpson. In second place, number 27, Stuart Patterson. In third place, number 5, Eric Little. In fourth, number 40, Robert Simpson. In fifth, number 48, Eric Paulson. In sixth, number 8, Edward Erlinson. Followed by Robert Edmondson, Mark Ballingy, Mike Moshe, Douglas Stewart, Aaron Stein, Jay Rosenthal, Mark Edwards, and Norm Marshall, and Scott Renner.
And that is our full field rundown brought to you by Inside the SCCA podcast. Also want to remember and remind everybody that our Cal Club SCCA divisional races are brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes. For all of your brake needs, go to porterfield-brakes.com.
There you have it. If you're interested in sponsoring the broadcast out here or any of the fine work that Brian gets up to on his podcast or otherwise, just reach out. Where they find you?
That would be race announcer Brian with an I
There you go.
at gmail.com.
Yeah, help be a part of the whole thing out here.
That's
Happy to have all the contributions we can get. And coming across the line, Mark Ballingy trying to get around Robert Edmondson yet again. Every time they come down into that sunrise, Robert Edmondson has to just watch as Mark Ballingy creeps up on him, and then every time they're past that, the gap opens up again, and he just has not been able to find the opening that he desires here today. Is unfortunate for Mark Ballingy.
Well, there's still a lot of time. 13 minutes is an eternity in one of these races. So he might be able to come together and do something about that. I'm going to try to also pick up our leader here in FFTS when he crosses the line next time. And that is Ricky Simpson. He's now gapped open a lead here of 8.2 seconds over Stuart Patterson. So that is a big gap for him. And I think I just missed him crossing the line here. But I'll pick him up here on our A section camera.
So it's actually interesting because that gap between Ricky Simpson and Stuart Patterson has opened up pretty significantly.
Even more now, yep.
And I'm not sure exactly how that happened because Stuart Patterson was doing pretty well at maintaining a similar pace. I mean, he wasn't going as fast, but he's definitely slowed down. So I do wonder if that's tire related, what that is, because that was not at all how big the gap was. But if you kind of go down the list, you'll actually see that repeated again by Robert Simpson, who is chasing Eric Poulsen. He's widened up considerably as well. He's much more behind than he was a couple of minutes ago or a couple laps ago. So wear and tear, driver's tired. I don't know what it is, but
at first I was thinking it was the I'm not going to win slowdown, but he's got the third place car only 1.1 seconds behind. So you can only do so much of that before you risk losing second place on the podium, and you certainly don't want to do that.
No, you certainly don't. Our Spec Racers coming by again. Same old story between those two, Mark Ballingy and Robert Edmondson. Neither one yet finding the edge over the other. Robert Edmondson continuing to lead. Mark Ballingy continuing to dog his heels. Just one to watch out for there. Mike Moshe, Douglas Stewart, Aaron Stein. We've not talked about them an awful lot. They're all just doing their thing, honestly. Having a good race. Looks like they're having fun. Jay Rosenthal is continuing to try and battle his way back into a better position, but he is having an absolute struggle of it. And then I should just give a shout out to the Formula Vs.
Yeah.
Mark Edwards and Scott Renner, who are also out there just racing.
You know, it's possible that they're just enjoying this Chamber of Commerce weather. You know,
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's what's going on.
Perfect temperatures this weekend. Very little wind, no rain. We've had all of those weird conditions across the spectrum this year, and it's just when you have a weekend that's like this, you're just like, wow, this is just perfect. So I'm sure that's not why they're driving, but it certainly is. This is the perfect weather. October in the high. Is this the high desert or the low desert? Which desert are we in?
This isn't a desert.
It's not a desert.
This is Central Valley.
This is the Central Valley. Well, it looks a little deserty to me.
It's dusty.
I'm not from here. I see. This is me not showing my local
we're
knowledge.
Not in the desert. We are just in the Central Valley. I mean, it is dusty. We know that for a fact. But there is a farm field within sight and an orchard. So I think we're doing all right. I was actually looking out at the farm field earlier, and there's heat coming up off the track, as you would expect there to be.
Sure.
It gives a most disconcerting feeling of all those crops kind of moving. It's
well, and it's not uncommon for us to see dust devils.
No, not at all.
Out here. Excuse me.
We've actually been okay on that this weekend. Sometimes we have them blow onto the track. We've seen that in the past. And then at the start of the year, in our early race, back in January of last year, we had, I think it was January, we had torrential downpours out here. I mean, absolute tons of rain. So these guys are having a great time and not having to deal with that, as Ricky Simpson, by the way, continues to lead this Formula Ford group.
But look at the gap.
It's closed.
It is closed almost 3 seconds.
Almost 3 seconds.
So,
yeah, Stuart Patterson is putting the pedal to the metal.
Let's see if this was... this came from a one bad lap for Ricky Simpson. He just turned, he's back at the 155 range, but he turned a 159 lap 2 laps ago. So maybe he got caught up in traffic, not sure what the situation is. So, but now he's widened the gap again to 7 seconds. So my guess, maybe a little traffic moment. And but when you have a 9-second lead, you can not navigate traffic without having to really worry about it. Or maybe he went off and came back on, and you can do that also when you've got a little bit of a lead. So, so yeah, closed it up, but now it's widening out again with 8 minutes left here in our second to last race of the day. Still ahead, we've got our small sedan class. This is our B-Spec, our production cars, our Touring 4 cars, STL, STU. I know we've got a couple of IT cars. That'll be our last race of the day coming up here in just a minute. And I think I just saw Mark Ballantyne making a move here, going through the S's on Robert Edmondson, and we will see here in just a second as they come across the line.
No, Robert Edmondson holding on. So Mark Ballantyne might have very well tried it, but Robert Edmondson maintains.
Yeah, they were side by side going through the S's.
That's what I'm talking about. Ballantyne, he's a fighter, honestly. They're going through some traffic right there on Sunrise as well, and that got a little harem-scarum there for a second. It actually slowed Mark Ballantyne down, I think, a pretty significant amount. Did actually allow for an opening there for Edmondson to kind of try and pull ahead. The unfortunate news for Mark Ballantyne here is that he's running out of time to really make a move, and so far he just has not been able to close that gap. It has been a very steady gap between these two cars as they go round and round and round. And you sort of feel for him just a little bit because he just cannot seem to find that opportunity. And if, like you said, Brian, they were side and side, it's not through lack of trying.
Well, and the good news for those two cars is they have a 43-second lead over third place. So now they could race them really hard for the next 6 minutes and not have to worry about, as long as they don't come together and don't finish the race, there really is almost no chance of the third-place car catching them. So they can now just go at it, and that should make for some exciting stuff here for us anyway. Here they coming down the hill from Phil Hill. They'll be right into our viewpoint in just a second.
Yeah, onto the drag strip. You can see the speed that Mark Ballantyne is putting on right there. I mean, he is trying to close that up. He just can't find it. And at a certain point in time, what do you do? I mean, I guess you just keep pushing it and you hope that your opponent does something. Puts 1 foot out of line.
It looks a little bit like Ballantyne's better in the second half of the lap, where Edmondson's better in the first half of the lap, because he has been coming down that hill from Phil Hill, closing up a gap, and then getting an opportunity in the S's. And here we're going to catch them here coming out of the main straight again. No dust, which means they are lockstep, first and second across the line. This time the gap is 0.4 of a second. 0.4 of a second. Seemed a little closer than that, but we'll know more. 5 minutes left to go here in this race, so probably two, maybe 3 laps, depending on where Ricky Simpson crossed the line last. And he has re-widened his gap up now to 8 seconds. And so whatever that little momentary hiccup was a few laps ago, he's been able to collect himself and collect his thoughts and get everything back in focus, and he is now driving forward once again. And here he comes with another nice lap of 157.8. We'll see Mr. Simpson here come into our view. And now I'm looking at the gap between first and second in Spec Racer Ford, and it has widened even more as they come through. I'm going to pop up our Riverside camera. You're going to see how wide it is here in just a second as these cars come through with 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Oh, well, now it looks like Ballantyne has caught up again a little bit more. So, crazy how that's working out.
Mark Ballantyne continues to lose ground on the
and then make up ground.
And then makes up ground and then loses it again. What he's really looking for, I think, is an opportunity to pass coming down on the straight past the tower.
Right.
And he just has not seen the light there. If you're sitting in the position now where you're Robert Edmondson, I think you're probably aware of that by now.
Oh, sure, yeah.
If you're looking back.
So every time they come up into Sunset, I'm sure Robert Edmondson is thinking very defensively on this straight because he knows that he can widen it up when they
Right.
get up to the dog leg. So we'll see as they come up here this time whether things change. Just from our last camera shot, it did look like they were closing here again. Mark Ballingy looking for his opening as they power through towards the Sunrise turn. Mark Ballingy wants to go to the inside. He won't find it. Now he's just playing off the draft of Robert Edmondson, though, and that's a dangerous position for Edmondson to be in. So the question is, when they come up, down, and around the grapevine into the dog leg, does Edmondson just put everything he has into it and widen it back up?
I believe that Mr. Ballingy is going to have 2 more shots at the apple here, 2 more bites at the apple to get after Robert Edmondson because there are 2 laps to go, I'm guessing, in this race. No official word yet, but doing my math, that is what I'm hearing and seeing as they come through Grapevine. Still about a 4 car lengths lead between Edmondson and Ballingy, but he seems to be able to bring that gap close here at the on the backside of every one of these laps. And is he toying with him? Is he setting him up? I'm just not quite sure yet because now the gap comes closer together going through Grapevine or going through Riverside. You'll see him right here.
I don't think he's toying with him. I think he just cannot find it.
Yeah.
And all credit to Robert Edmondson. He is driving a very clean, very
darn near
well
perfect
done
race.
drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is difficult for these guys because, I mean, keep in mind, all the spec racers, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, all the spec racers are functionally the same race car.
They are
So
the
you're
same
not really,
race car.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're getting the same race car. You're not getting a ton of edge off that. So when you do kind of fall into positions like that, it's just difficult. It's just difficult.
Yep.
It really becomes a test of your nerve and ability of how fast you think you can make that thing go.
Yep.
And also a test of the driver in front of you if he can maintain it. Now, Mark Ballingy is, part owner of MBI, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He's well versed in what his limits
Sure.
are in that car. And I just don't think that he's found anything in his limits that'll make it work. Here they come again, and Mark Ballingy now looking potentially for an outside as they head towards the Sunrise. And he'll go right up onto the backside of him again, but he will not get through.
Well, and the good news for those 2 cars, the good news for Mark Ballingy, maybe not for Robert Edmondson, is the white flag was not in the air that time by. So there'll be at least 1 more lap after this one that he'll be able to try to get this thing done.
Well, the white flag now
it's
makes
out.
its appearance here. Ricky Simpson taking that and heading on the Formula Ford beat in that first place position. You've got Eric Little, who's way far behind. He's about 2.5 seconds behind Stuart Patterson. You'll get Polson, Simpson, the rest of the gang in the mix as well, but really we're going to turn our focus back. Once we see this white flag and we see them pass, we'll turn our focus back over to the Spec Racer 3s because I can't help but feel like Mark Ballingy is going to do something.
Yep.
He's
going to try, if nothing else.
He must do something. You must do something.
Well, here they are again. This is the second to last time through Phil Hill. No real change in no change in position, but no real change in the gap between the positions either. Yeah, he's got, I guess now doing the math, he's got like 15 corners left to try to get this thing to make it happen. But of those 15 corners, there's like 4 good passing zones. It looks like he's a little bit closer now as they go through the S's.
Yeah, but we've seen this every single time.
We do.
We've seen this.
Come on now, don't dash my hopes,
I don't want to
Tristan.
dash your hopes. I don't want to dash your hopes. We have seen this every single time, and it has yet to manifest. The white flag now coming out to show them they're on their last lap, and that'll be the signal for Mark Ballingy. It's go time.
It
here.
is no question. It's go
As they
time.
come down towards Sunrise again, and that's
Just
the
not close enough.
first really good passing opportunity he's going to have. And that is actually the least close they've been in a couple of goes round on that particular turn. So it might be that Mark Ballingy is just not going to find the way forward here today.
And here comes the checkered flag out for our race winner here. It'll be in the air in just a second, and there you see it. The starter bringing out the checkered flag. Here he comes. Your race winner. Whatever they did to the car last night worked. Ricky Simpson is your winner in FTS. 3.1 seconds ahead of yesterday's winner, Stuart Patterson. So whatever tweaks, whatever wrench turns they did, that paid off. Ricky Simpson, your race leader.
Race
winner.
Payoff bigly. Let's see here what Robert Edmondson and Mark Ballingy have left in the tank for us here.
They'll be coming into our view just a second here. We'll see what the gap is. And here they come. I hope. There we go. Yep, still about the same gap as we've seen every time, Tristan.
Yep, it is. Next camera here, the drag strip. We can catch another view of those two cars. The white checkered flag, or actually the checkered flag is out and waving. Mark Ballingy, he's still looking for an opening. Edmondson is denying it at every turn.
Well, look at how close they are going through Star Mazda this time. He's going to give one more last chance to just throw it in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
Wow, look at how close they are there.
What else would you get? I mean, what else is he?
He's got no other choice. You're absolutely right.
Here as they head towards the straightaway, and we'll get another view of them.
Here comes your winners in Spec Racer Ford. Who's it going to be, Tristan?
It is going to be Robert Edmondson holding on there at the start. Mark Ballingy not able to find a way forward. He will have to settle for second place. And that, I think, brings us to our final full field rundown here of the day. So starting at the top of the list, in first place overall, the leader of the Formula Fords, number 29, Ricky Simpson. In second place, number 27, Stuart Patterson. In third place, number 5, Eric Little. In fourth, number 48, Eric Poulsen. In fifth, number 40, Robert Simpson. In sixth, number 8, Edward Erlinson. In seventh, and your overall leader for the Spec Racer Fords, number 22, Robert Edmondson. And in eighth, number 197, Mark Ballingy, followed by Mike Moshe, Douglas Stewart, Aaron Stein, Jay Rosenthal, Mark Edwards, Scott Renner, and Norm Marshall.
All right, that's going to round out your full field rundown here for the end of our fourth race of the day. Coming up next, our final race, our small bore sedans, GT Lights, E, F, and H production B-Spec, your IT cars, and that is up next. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Here we go. Last race of the day. This is our, what did I say? This is our small sedans. A sedan, E production, F production, production cars, IT cars. Not a big field, so let's go through that rundown here so we can find out what the starting order is.
Starting at the back in 11th overall, that is number 29, Gary Raymond. In 10th, number 16, Kayla Etherington. Alongside her, number 21, Jack McKecham. In 8th, number 2, Brandon Droz, or I should say 02, Brandon Droz. In 7th, number 52, Famous Dale Shoemaker. In 6th, number 96, Christina Etherington. In 5th, number 33, Philip Clark. In 4th, number 2, David Lecren. In 3rd, number 53, Sean Fisher. In 2nd, number 91, Andrew Chinizzi. And your overall race leader and pole position holder, number 121, Brian Lynn in the GTL.
You know, Dale Shoemaker, Famous Dale,
Yes.
was up here as our steward today.
Oh, was he really?
All weekend, and I never asked him the story behind Famous Dale.
I
I'm
didn't necessarily understand
Yeah.
how he got it either, but I had dinner with him once, and he was like, "Please call me Famous Dale." And I was like, "Sure thing, man. That's a small. If it makes you happy, that's a small thing for me to do."
Well, here's my disappointment. You were right there when he asked you to do it, and you didn't ask him what the story was behind
no,
the
he
name.
told me the story. I
Oh.
think I probably just forgot
Okay.
it. It was a funny story. I remember
Okay.
laughing. So we're gonna have to get it off of him at some point in time next time we catch him.
We'll revisit it.
We will revisit it. I agree.
All right, so we got two-time national champion Brian Lynn leading the field down to the green flag here. And he is in a car that is outpacing the field, I'm sure. He's in that GT Light Nissan. I believe that's a Sentra. Yep, it's a Sentra SER. And he is from Hermosa Beach, California. And, of course, he is sponsored by Goodyear and Carbotech. And so he is out here, and he will be very, very quick today. Hopefully the car, he had a mechanical yesterday, right? Did he not finish?
I believe so, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He,
So-
he had to come in early.
So, and he had to come in early before the halfway mark, so he wasn't considered a finisher. I
If I
remember that.
correctly,
Yep.
yes.
So he'll try to not have that a repeat today. Pace car should be coming on to pit lane here just a second, and you will see your racers come onto the front straight for one final hopeful green flag this time by. Waiting for that to happen, and there it is. Green flag is in the air as we start our final race of the weekend here. 30 minutes, and of course I didn't start the clock. I will get that going in just a second. Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of that.
I don't see Brian Lynn out there, you know.
Uh-oh. Maybe he didn't get the car put together.
I don't see him out there. I did not see him cross the line. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. And, we'll know for sure on the second time around.
All of that lead up.
Yeah.
All of
that
that
doesn't
lead
look
up.
like him in the lead. That is.
Now that
is
looks like that's
definitely-
that Porsche, isn't it?
Yeah, that is definitely not him at the top of the list.
I
That is
believe that's
definitely
Andrew
Chinichi.
Chinichi. Yep.
Chinizzi. He is in the fancy, or not the fancy. He is in the brightly colored white and blue Porsche.
Yep. Pretty car.
It is actually a lovely car. Cool paint scheme. There's been a couple of really fun paint schemes out here this weekend that I've really liked. David Varco was running one that was pretty cool with like red and a lot of kind of haphazard stripes on it. So appreciate
Was that Austin or was that David?
I think it was David.
Okay.
But it might have been Austin.
Oh,
I don't know.
what is going on with my countdown timer?
But we're taking a look here right now, and it is a smaller field than we anticipated, actually. Definitely a smaller field than yesterday. It's tuned down. A couple of cars went home. No, Volkswagen Rabbit out there today, as far as I can tell. So just mostly Mazdas here with a little mixture in there of a occasional Porsche and some variations on the Mazdas as well. Miatas and RX D8s. So not all the same by any stretch of the word. We'll get a better idea here when they come around to the next time who's where doing what. And it would certainly be a shame if, for example, Brian Lynn was not out there on the track, because it's always fun to see how fast they can get that car to go. And, I saw him today. I saw that car today in the paddock, so I know that they're there. Or that he's here. I just don't know why he isn't racing. But here comes number 81, Andrew Chinizzi. He is followed by Sean Fisher, and he'll be followed by David Lecren. And yeah, sure enough, I do not think that we are going to get to see Brian Lynn out there on the track today, which is a real shame.
It is.
In fact,
We'll see who clocks across here at the end. 2 of our starters are not out there. Or 2
Okay.
of our supposed starters are not out there. Brandon Drazy is not out there, and Brian Lynn is not out there. We are down 2, so that leaves a total field of 9 here on the day with Andrew Chinizzi in the overall lead. First lap was a 2:09.3. We'll see if he can maintain that pace. He's got no genuine competition out there, but he does have Sean Fisher, I guess, the closest thing to it, about 2.5 seconds behind.
Yeah, and we'll have to keep an eye on that Sean Fisher car because behind that car is the number 2 car of David Lecren. That is a class battle. They're the 2 top cars at STL, and right now is about a 2-second gap between first and second in STL. So, and then we can look back to our T4 class battle. That's going to be Philip Clark and Christina Etherington. They're in T4, and there's a 0.6 of a second gap between those 2 cars. So even though there's not a whole ton of cars in this group, we do have some class battles going on that we can kind of try to keep an eye on, and hopefully they'll stay interesting for us.
Yeah, the STLs, obviously, there's some fighting in there, and the T4s as well. Yesterday, this group kind of settled into their rhythm, as many of our groups like to do. So we'll give them a lap or 2 to see if that's how that manifests there. As we cut over to the camera in the S's, that is your race leader, Andrew Chinizzi, who just passed by. And then you can see behind him, Sean Fisher and David Lecren.
That's right. And then right behind them, you've got the Philip Clark and Christina Etherington battle. So right there still at the front, and we'll be able to kind of keep a little closer together without that GT light car to gap everything out. It'll be a little easier to keep track of our leaders here in all those in those 2 classes. So that T4 battle there is really still pretty close. So that right now it's 0.3 of a second. Actually, Christina Etherington was able to make her way around Philip Clark, so she's now in first place in T4, and Philip Clark is now 0.3 of a second behind her. So we will see if she can hold on and maybe start opening that gap out. Still like 25 seconds, not even like 25 minutes, about 25 minutes to go here in the race. Of course, unofficial time here, but we're keeping the thing going, and we'll see what happens.
Christina Etherington, I think, had some mechanical issues yesterday, so I'm sure she would like to open that up if possible. Kayla Etherington is in this race as well. One of them was the one I was having mechanics. I think it was Christina, but I can't confirm for sure. But they definitely want to open it up here if they can find that opportunity. Meanwhile, Sean Fisher and David Lecren, that is a fight, but it does look like Sean Fisher is pulled ahead of Lecren. A lot of the onus placed on Andrew Chinizzi here as well. I mean, his second lap clocked in at 2:07, and I'm honestly not sure if his car is capable of maintaining that speed over a full 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm. We'll find out, won't we?
We will. I'm just not sure that that's his thing. Jack McKecham may be suffering from some mechanical difficulties. Speaking of mechanics, he's got a little bit of smoke coming off the backside of his car. Hopefully not anything serious. I think McKecham was also one of the cars yesterday that did not race. They either started the course and had to pull off, or they just weren't able to get out there. So if there is an ongoing mechanical issue, it might very well be rearing its ugly head right now.
Yeah, definitely. So we will hear from our corner workers around the track, and if there's any information we can pass along to you, we will, as we watch all of this happening here. Our race leader coming at the line here for you with a little over 23 and a half minutes left to go. And here comes the second place car of Sean Fisher, and should be followed by David Lecren. That gap widening a little bit more, but then you've got the T4 battle still really close. Philip Clark is now in second place, but Christina Etherington
has actually overtaken David Lecren, so she's
that's
doing
a car
great.
on the move.
Yeah, it is a car on the move, and she's got a whole 4.8 seconds ahead of David Lecren. So he must have made she has 0.7 of a second in front of him, but still, he must have made some sort of mistake coming through, because there's no reason that Christina Etherington should have been able to jump forward that fast over David Lecren. So
but you look at those two cars' fast laps, and Christina Etherington's fastest lap is still better than his. So she's just moving.
Yeah, she definitely is moving. So good,
Yep.
good for her. You love to see it. And certainly, it's going to give David Lecren something to fight for here. He doesn't want to get lapped by or overtaken by Philip Clark either. And this is technically David Lecren back in the spot where he started as well. Whereas Christina Etherington has risen 3 whole generations to this. Ooh, I lost myself there for a second. I got mumbled my words. No, Christina Etherington has risen 3 whole places. I
Right.
don't know why I thought of generations. She's risen 3 whole places. Probably because there's another Etherington.
Yep.
And I was thinking like, oh, they're related. I actually don't know what their relation is at all. Whether they're what their relation is. Well, unlike The Simpsons, which you found out. So.
Well, they're definitely the same family, but I don't know where the relations fall
what the
there.
connection is. So, not
Chris-
generations.
Christina's in that Mazda Miata. She's out of Las Vegas, so yeah, pretty interesting to see how this thing works out there.
Couple of out of staters in this
Yeah.
because we've got multiple Las Vegas and then we have out of region we have a San Diego competitor in this as well. From Oceanside, I believe that's Philip Clark. So a diverse field both in terms of cars and where they come from, which is always fun.
Absolutely. It's all right. We're all good. We're family here. We're all family.
What a day. What a day. Sometimes it just be like that, though.
Well, you know, at the end of 10 races that we've done this weekend on Sunday afternoon, it's not uncommon for us to get a little punchy here.
Horrible, yeah. Andrew Chinichi, by the way, setting his fastest lap, 2:07, which is actually pretty good for the ITR. He's in a Porsche Boxster. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but he raced in a race in Group 2, I want to say, earlier today, Group 2 or Group 3, and he had a bit of a rough road of it there, but in this race he has been just perfect so far, so good for him. Christina Etherington also continues to speed up here. She set her fastest lap on the last one at 2:11, so good performances. You know what? I'll give my credits as well. Famous Dale down there, he got his fastest lap, 2:14.05, and then Kayla Etherington had a 2:16.78. So credit to both of them. Gary Raymond coming across the line right there. He's our number 29 car. He's also our oldest car on the track. He is in a 1976 Porsche 914.
Yeah.
From San Marcos. So a fair ancient car out there compared to his brethren. You'd have to go all the way up to 1978 with the Mazda RX-7 of Brandon Drazy, who's not even racing today. So if we dropped him, we're up to the 1999 Porsche Boxster as the closest car in age to that old Porsche, which appears to be going like an absolute dream out there for Gary Raymond. So all power to him.
Well, I'm going to do my best Tom Carnegie impersonation here. And, of course, this is unofficial until timing and scoring announces it as being official. But I believe we have ourselves a new track record.
Oh, really?
That Andrew Chinichi time of 2:07.861. According to my records, the ITR class record before today was 2:08.965.
Wow.
So it looks like he has knocked almost a full second off the ITR class record here on this track configuration. And that is pretty darn cool.
That is pretty darn cool. I mean, obviously, we'll get we'll get confirmation of it.
We will.
Timing and scoring, but that's an impressive, not only to break the record, but to break it in style.
Yeah, by almost a second.
Really impressive. Andrew Chinichi earning his plaudits today. That's for sure. Making the Porsche Boxster work for him out there, and perhaps benefiting honestly from the lack of Brian Lynn in front of him. That he's just able to kind of do what he likes in terms of his speed, and we'll see. He's going to come around again because last lap he hit a 2:07.875, so he's hardly lost any traction there at all. There's a 0.014 of a second difference by my rough calculation between his fifth lap and his fourth lap, so he might actually have a little bit more heat to give here on the day. Speaking of, by the way, I do wonder if some of these drivers will bow out early if we cross that halfway mark for example, your Gary Raymonds of the world may
Sure.
just not want to necessarily play this one out all the way. But then again, you do drive all the way out here with your car, so you gotta have a little bit of fun, right? You can't just call it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Some of these guys are doing things with different strategies, different long-term game plans. I know that's something Mark Edwards does oftentimes when he's the only Formula V here.
Right. He will often pit.
He'll come in after it's an official race and save the every lap you put on a motor is a lap closer to having to have it refreshed. So
Tires too.
that tires as well. So. But some guys, that this is their thing. They come out and want to get every lap in they can. So it just depends on what the long-term, goal is for a driver. So.
Well, slowing down a little bit is Andrew Chinizzi. That 207.861, still the fastest he's done.
Right.
Last one was a 209.373, so he's come down a bit right there. Christina Etherington has set her fastest lap now. She continues to heat up, as do Jack McKecham and Kayla Etherington deeper down the list. So a lot of our drivers putting in a shift right here.
Yep.
Lap number 6 coming around. We'll see how Jack McKecham did on that one. He sets a new fastest lap time, and then he should be followed by Kayla Etherington. But perhaps not. There is a big old gap here, and I don't see Kayla Etherington just yet.
Well, that would be unfortunate because she was within 2.3
Here she
seconds.
comes. Oh, she's way back. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Oh,
but-
Kayla. I thought you were talking about Christina.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Kayla is 16 seconds behind. Christina remains about 2.2
Yeah.
seconds behind Sean Fisher. So the other STL there at the top of the list in danger of being poached. Philip Clark has actually pushed up past David Lecren. So Lecren has dropped a position from his start. Philip Clark has moved up one. So that's all quite interesting, honestly, what's developing there at the top of the list. And, obviously the STLs and the T4s are not racing against one another today. But it does kind of feel like that just a little bit, with Sean Fisher holding on to the honor of the STL class out there, being dogged by Christina Etherington around the track. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. We're almost reaching the halfway mark, so we'll go ahead and give you our full field rundown here, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brake Pads. In first place, your overall leader, number 91, Andrew Chinizzi. In second, number 53, Sean Fisher. In third, number 96, Christina Etherington. In fourth, number 33, Philip Clark. In fifth, number 2, David Lecren. In sixth, number 52, Dale Shoemaker. In seventh, number 21, Jack McKecham. In eighth, number 16, Kayla Etherington. In ninth, number 29, Gary Raymond. And that will round out your midway field rundown, brought to you by Porterfield Racing Brakes.
Well, this is kind of cool. I just got a message from one of our drivers, Thomas Pendergrass, who's not here this weekend. He's normally either in H production or B spec, but he is here this weekend, flying overhead. He just shot a picture of the racetrack.
Oh yeah, sure enough.
If you
really
see
cool.
that would be. Let me.
I got it. Yeah.
I'll see if I can actually get a shot here, but we're right there.
Yeah. Good shot. Actually.
Let me see if I can find a way to get this on the broadcast before it's over here.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, he's flew right by. We sometimes see planes out there. We see crop dusters on occasion, but he must be in a little private plane up there somewhere. That's great.
Let me see if I can do a little magic here while you're talking. I'll press some buttons here.
He's been racing planes. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, no.
A whole nother aspect.
He's a good guy. He's a B-spec driver typically.
Interesting.
But let me see if I can throw this up in here real quick.
You're taking a look at the A section now, and one car coming through, and honestly, that one car just coming through, I think, sets a good tenor for this race as a whole, which has been a little bit just simple. It's been very straightforward for these drivers. There's a little bit of competition out there, but nothing that's breaking the bank. Christina Etherington, I think, is the real go-getter to keep an eye on out there right now. She's about 1.3 seconds behind Sean Fisher, the other STL car. So I think she wants to go for the overtake if possible. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Sean Fisher, by the way, a whole 28 seconds back behind Andrew Chinizzi. So it's not like anyone can really overtake at the top of this lineup. Christina Etherington would genuinely have to get around Sean Fisher first, and before she could even contemplate such a thing. Gary Raymond coming across the line right now. And we'll keep an eye out here for Christina Etherington and Sean Fisher, one after another. Her Mazda Miata for all it's worth out there on the track right now in order to catch up with Sean Fisher, who is driving a Mazda RX-8. Now checking back to your straightaway cam, relatively clear right there. You will notice that the pumpkin has departed us. He's got to go back for the rest of the holiday, I guess, elsewhere. As here comes the number 16 car of Kayla Etherington across the line.
So real quick, I'm going to
Yes, no flying and texting. I'm pretty sure that's against the rules. Though, to be fair, your odds of hitting something are a lot smaller.
Yeah, that's true.
You just got
That's
a
true.
longer way to go down, really.
And somehow I took down our timer. So let me work on getting that thing back up for the last. We're coming up on 10 minutes to go here, folks. Just in case you're interested, or what. I'm sure you're interested. If you're watching, you're definitely interested. But yeah, we're coming up on 10 to go here, and keeping a real close eye. Christina Etherington on the move, trying to come up from third place into second place overall. And honestly, Philip Clark's not far behind either. So we will see how that whole thing develops. And Philip Clark's actually just taken the lead in T4. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here with that. And I think actually I've lost my graphics program here, and that's why the 10-minute marker here isn't going on anymore. So, all right, we're not going to have a timer for the end of this race, but rest assured, we will keep you apprised of the countdown. But very interesting development here, Tristan. Philip Clark has moved ahead, and moved ahead by a good margin, 5 seconds. So my suspicion is that Christina Etherington has had some sort of an off and on.
Yeah, it sounds like Christina Etherington in that number 96 car had some sort of issue out there. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but a spun and continue, which allowed Philip Clark to, I think, power through and slot in behind Sean Fisher. So any dreams Christina Etherington had of making up that difference have been spoiled somewhat, and that is unfortunate.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know what? There's still 9 minutes to go, and there's a chance that she could possibly make up that time, and we'll see if she can do that. That's why we race all the laps here, all the time.
True. Like we were saying at the end of our last race, you just got to finish it out. That's how
right.
it works.
That's right.
You stop early, you never know what's going to happen. Oh, and look at this. Andrew Chinizzi setting a new fastest lap, which, if we believe our sources, would be a new lap record in the same race. New track record of 207.822, the fastest for an ITR ever. Be interesting to see if that is the case, because that is wicked fast.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I love. One of my broadcast heroes was Tom Carnegie, and he would call it the Indy 500 whenever there was a new track record. He had this deep baritone voice,
Yeah.
and it would echo across
Yes.
the hole, and he goes, "There's a new track record," and everybody would look up at the pylon, and it was just the coolest thing.
That is very cool.
And
Love to hear it.
yeah. So
Well, Christina Etherington coming across the line right there. I think her opportunity to catch is probably over.
yeah,
But she's got plenty of room on Famous Dale Shoemaker, so nothing to worry about in that regard, because there they come. Jack McKecham right behind it. Kayla Etherington as well. Gary Raymond. David Lecren, who was driving one of the other STLs. He's actually had to call it an early day, has already returned to the pit, so I'm assuming something, either he crashed, which I think did happen to someone. When I say crash, by the way, don't get
Yes.
too excited. I mean,
not a crash.
His car broke down.
Correct.
That's what I mean. Is a better way to say it. His car broke down.
Yes,
It sounds more dramatic if I say he
it
crashed,
does.
but it is
Inaccurate, but more dramatic.
inaccurate. His car broke down. He had some issue where he had to pull off to the side, basically.
Yeah.
So I think he's out. So no more racing for him, and as a result, everybody's kind of shifted up a little bit in the pecking order here.
Yeah, definitely the case. Want to take a minute here as we get close to the last 7 minutes or so to thank a bunch of people here on the broadcast that helped us get this whole thing done. Of course, let's start with Porterfield Brakes. They are our presenting sponsor, and we would not be doing this without them. Go check them out at Porterfield or dash, depending on how you want to say it, brakes.com, Porterfield-brakes.com. Also want to thank all of our volunteer workers who are out here this weekend, allowing us to have fun. Without the proper number of people to do this, there's just no racing. So if you'd like to get involved and volunteer, go to calclub.com. All the information you need there, including contact information. And we would love to have you come out and be part of all the fun out here. So check that out, calclub.com. So all of the workers out here, thank you so much for being out here for the weekend. All of the administration here at Buttonwillow and at Cal Club for helping us out to get these broadcasts on. A big, big thank you to them. And, of course, Tristan, I'd like to thank you for being here once
my
again.
pleasure. Thank you.
We have a ton of fun I have a ton of fun doing this. I hope you do, too.
It always is a good time.
And, any day at the racetrack is better than any day at work. And if you can make the racetrack work, even better.
Yeah.
So, so we're having a good old time here. We're coming up on 5 minutes to go here. Still Andrew Chinichi in first, followed by Sean Fisher, Philip Clark, Christina Etherington, and Famous Dale Shoemaker. That's your top five.
Oh, there you go. A little bit left in the race now, and they will eventually have to see who comes around. I don't think we're going to see any changes.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to see any changes, but never say never.
Don't put the announcer's curse on people.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that, actually.
You just laid the account. Somebody's going to have a change now. I don't know if it'll be our leaders, but you've just assured that somebody will get a change.
Oh, we'll create the drama if we can't find it, I
Exactly.
believe is what we said earlier. So maybe
Exactly.
it's all being spoken into being, but everybody seems to be just having a good Sunday afternoon drive.
That's right.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Everybody having fun.
That's right.
And it has been a beautiful race weekend, some of the best we've ever had out here.
Weather-wise, yep.
Yeah, so gotta like that.
We're going to do it again in a couple of weeks. November 4th and 5th, we'll be back out here. I believe it's 10 more races, 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday. I haven't looked at the schedule, but that's normally what we do out here.
Sounds about right to me.
Racing Action usually gets together here about 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturday and about noon on Sunday. So we'll have all those streams going on again here on the Racing Network on YouTube. You can find the links on that location as well. Wouldn't it be great if you would subscribe, smash the like button and subscribe, and click that little bell button so you get alerted every time we go with a new show here, whether it be a live race or whether it be the Inside the SCCA podcast. All of that stuff is here for you, and we have a really fun time bringing all that information to everybody.
All worth listening to. Interesting stuff out there.
Yep.
All the information you want about Sports Car Club and their various operations. And obviously, don't forget to check out Brian's just work in general.
That's right.
Because he's all over the place.
Yep. Also want to give a shout out to the IT department for the Racing Network, Alex Belansky. Gotta have one of those teenagers at home to fix everything when I break it. So big shout out to Alex for helping me get my stuff fixed when I mess it up, and that happens sadly all too often.
Oh, well. Always good
So-
to have somebody on hand.
That's right. That's right. So, and after they're done shaking their head and going, "Dad, what'd you do this time?" then they jump in and fix it. So, there's Gary Raymond coming across start-finish line in that really cool 914 Porsche. As you thought maybe he would call it quits early today, but no, he's
Nope,
going to
he's
motor
finishing
right
out.
in through the end. That is a 1976 914. Gary is out of San Marcos. High Tech Automotive is his sponsor.
That's good for him, honestly. Happy to see him taking his full measure
Yeah.
out there. Why not? You come all the way out here. He's actually just set his fastest lap.
There you go.
So he's not he's not
Hashtag
giving
get
up
her
at
done.
all.
That's
Yeah,
right.
he's not giving up at all. Andrew Chinizzi has slowed down a little bit, going in at 2:08. Still been very fast.
Yeah. It's still fast enough. Fast enough is fast
I
enough.
hear the call coming down from timing and scoring, so our next lap around will be our final lap. So the
All
white
right.
flag will be shown as soon as we see Andrew Chinizzi. So getting close to the tail end here, just taking a look down the line if there are any, significant battles to look at. Philip Clark is a 2.5 seconds behind Sean Fisher, and a 1.3 second gap between Jack McKecham and Famous Dale. Kayla Etherington and Christina Etherington, both of them in relatively comfortable positions here to just finish their races as long as they stay clean out on the track. And of course, we did mention it earlier. Unfortunately, David Lecren did have to drop out, but I believe he did cross the halfway point before he was required to drop.
Yeah, he
So
got 8 laps in, so that should be
He
halfway.
should have done
Yep.
enough to at least get the qualification of having done it. So
Yep.
that's good for him.
Just keeping my eagle eye on the start stand to see that white flag come out so we can get to our last 3.1 miles of this race weekend.
Taking a look now as well out at the field, we have our S's view up right there. You should see a couple of cars coming through, but now we are back taking a quick check-in at the start line as Famous Dale and Jack McKecham both come across it.
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, nothing
We'll catch 'em here.
horrifically critical in that one.
We'll
I think
catch 'em
it's
here.
just interesting to see. Jack McKecham is at a 0.75 seconds behind Dale, so maybe he'll try something on. He doesn't necessarily have to, but he's certainly putting on a little bit of
Yeah.
speed there at the tail end. And
Yeah.
there's your view of the A section.
That's right. Here comes those 2 cars you were talking about. I think our leaders are getting ready to come on to the front straight here.
Indeed.
Watching and waiting. Here it comes. He's thinking about it. The starter is thinking about it. He's pointing down. Here comes the white flag. There it is, folks. 3.1 miles to go to end our race weekend here at Buttonwillow.
One of our longest track configurations might actually be the longest that we have.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it
Making
actually
him-
says 3.02.
3.02. Oh, well, we've been
That's-
making them work for it
That's
this
right.
weekend.
It's all good. It's all good. We are having a good old time enjoying bringing this out. One lap car there that Andrew Chinizzi has to negotiate, or doesn't have to negotiate. He actually doesn't have to even go
He can
around
just
him.
pocket it, honestly.
That's
and
right.
just finish it out. He does not have to get himself around that
He
car.
could probably get out of the car and push it for the rest of this lap and still win this race.
He could, probably, if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah, it's all good. Like we said, we'll be back here on November 4th and 5th. Doing it all one more time. That'll be our last race of 2023 here. And then we'll come back out and do it again early in January. I will be, early in January.
Really cool, honestly.
Good times, good times. There is our leader one last time through Riverside, heading up towards Phil Hill. And he will come down Phil Hill and down the drag strip. We'll catch him one more time there.
Waiting.
Not too much longer. There he is.
There he is,
There
powering
he is.
through. And
Andrew Chinizzi. And then one more time through the S's. Can you tell I'm ready to go
I'm
home?
just letting you walk it through your cameras. That's good. There's the number 29 car. Almost in the lead, in a sense.
There you go.
He's in front of him.
There's your race leader.
There's your race leader.
And in a second, he will show up, and that white flag will go away. and the checkered flag will come out, and I'm giving as much drum as I possibly can here.
Yeah, all good. There's number 29. Here comes the checkered flag. It is Andrew
There
Chinizzi
you
powering through. Possible track record earlier on in this race for the ITRs. He has had a beautiful drive. He is followed up by Sean Fisher. And we can probably go ahead, I think, and safely say we can give you a full field rundown. I don't think we're going to see any seismic shifts. So starting at the top, number 91, Andrew Chinizzi, your overall race winner. In second place, number 53, Sean Fisher. In third place, number 33, Philip Clark. In fourth place, number 96, Christina Etherington. In fifth place, number 52, Dale Shoemaker. In sixth, number 21, Jack McKecham. In seventh, number 16, Kayla Etherington. In eighth, number 29, Gary Raymond. And then in DNF, number 2, David Lecren. And that is your full field rundown at the end of the race. Brought to you by the Inside the SCCA podcast and Porterfield Racing Brake Pads.
For Tristan Parker, I'm Brian Polanski. So long from Buttonwillow Raceway Park. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, everybody. Stay with us and come back and join us again.